What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 8PR Chapter 136, Swordsmanship Inheritance, Zaraki Kenpachi's Unohana 8000 Ryu. Not to mention Zaraki Kenpachi, even other people would feel unparalleled shock when seeing this kind of battle scene. Just think about it, the fighting power of Kyoraku Shunsui and Jashiro Yukitake, coupled with the eternal villain Unohana Retsu. This level of fighting power is not comparable to ordinary lineups. Captain Zaraki, plus you, we are no match for the captain. Kyoraku Shunsui stroked his bamboo hat with an unexaggerated expression on his face. He is right. Even if the four of them join forces, they may not be Yamamoto's opponent. However, at this time, the picture on the big screen changed. Seireii's conference room. Report, Byakuya Kuchiki, captain of the 6th Division, and Zaraki Kenpachi, captain of the 11th Division, both survived, but they should not be able to continue to serve as captains. A Shinigami came to report. I'm afraid it's unknown whether he can wake up in the future. Back off, suddenly, Sui Feng roared. She had just experienced the death of Yamamoto Genryuzai, and she no longer wanted to hear any more bad news. You don't want to hear these reports now. Don't you understand the situation? The captain has passed away. What kind of bad news do you want me to accept? That's enough, it's so embarrassing. Muguruma Kensai on the side was a little unbearable, Sui Feng's appearance. Even if the captain dies, he can't act so impulsively. He doesn't look like the captain of the 2nd Division at all. This Muguruma Kensai. When will it be his turn to talk about me? Outside the video, Sui Feng was very dissatisfied. After all, he was also the former captain, right? This should be the Quincy of the Invisible Empire who has just invaded Soul Society. Jashiro frowned. According to the timeline, Yamamoto Genryuzai had just died in the battle. For some unknown reason, the Quincy's have left. Captain, we are indeed all sad about the death of the captain, but we must stay calm. Omeda moved her big lips and said, 50-60. Hit his face with a accustomed fist. Stay calm, keep calm. Sometimes, emotions are hard to control, right? It's like I want to punch your schedule now. Captain Kuchiki was injured to the core by Asano, and then went to the Soul King Palace to practice. How did Captain Zaraki recover? Shuhei looked at Zaraki Kenpachi curiously. At the beginning, Zaraki Kenpachi was stabbed through the body with a knife by the fake Yuhabach, and it was reasonable to say that he was already in critical condition. According to Shinigami's report in the video, Zaraki Kenpachi should not be able to serve as the captain, but why did he recover later and learn Bankai? I can't be the captain. Ha ha ha, Zaraki Kenpachi laughed out loud. I don't take it seriously that trash like Lloyd hurts me at all. Every time Zaraki Kenpachi fights, he will suffer a certain degree of damage. No matter who the opponent is, Kurosaki Ichigo, Neutra, he will be strong when he is strong, and he will be weak when he is weak. The injuries can be all over his body, but when have you ever seen him lose some abilities due to injuries? Yeah, now that Captain Zaraki and Captain Kuchiki were able to repair their injuries, it's a gratifying thing. Kyoraku Shunsui said with a smile. And we all understand Captain Sui Feng's emotions. Quamshi calling her embarrassing is really too much. After hearing this, Sui Feng's expression improved a little. Return to the video screen. Disgraceful. Sui Feng yelled directly at Muguruma Kensai. You have resentment towards the captain, that's why you are so calm. What did you say? Quamshi turned his head and stared at Sui Feng. Stop talking. Sui Feng. Bai Kun Sajin also joined in, but he was calmer than Sui Feng. Do you think you were the only one who wants to roar? None of them wanted to accept Yamamoto Genryuzai's death, but they kept it suppressed in their hearts. Sui Feng, on the other hand, directly released his heart, appearing a little anxious and chaotic. Seeing that the situation was developing in an uncontrollable direction, Kyoraku Shunsui, who walked into the conference room at this time, quickly smoothed things over. He clapped his hands. Okay, don't make any noise. At this pace, everyone will definitely line up and get punched by the old man, and he will scold us for crying and screaming in front of the relics. It's really embarrassing. Kingraku, you? Sui Feng thought Kyoraku Shunsui was targeting him. Go-Day 13 does not exist to mourn the dead, nor to weep sadly for the fallen Soul Society, but to protect the existence of Soul Society. Kyoraku Shunsui said calmly. At this time, he had put on a blindfold and looked much calmer than before. Yamamoto Genryuzai passed away, and the heavy responsibility of Seireii fell on him. If you don't be more calm, how can you take on this important task? He lowered his gaze and said, why not keep moving forward, we are Go-Day 13. First team building. Yamamoto Genryuzai felt relieved when he saw Kyoraku Shunsui's calm appearance. The apprentice who is usually unconventional can be so serious. It seems that my death was not in vain. Finally, I look like a real person. I'm sorry everyone, I apologize for my impulsiveness in the video. Sui Feng thought a lot after hearing Kyoraku Shunsui's words. It is true that he in the video is too reckless, impulsive and hurtful with his words. Perhaps this is not what the captain wants to see. It's okay, Captain Sui Feng, we all understand. Kashiwamura Sajin didn't take it to heart. The reason why he yelled at Sui Feng was because he didn't want the situation to continue to be deadlocked. Gotei 13 just needs a character like this. Oh my, it's hard to see the leader of the Kyoto band being so serious. Kurotsuchi Mayuri smiled coldly. Kyoraku Shunsui agreed casually. That's not true. After Mr. Shan leaves, the burden will all fall on Jashiro and I. He turned to look at Jashiro and smiled. Yes, Captain Jashiro. Don't. Jashiro quickly waved his hand and refused. I am weak, so the burden should still fall on you. Hearing this, Kyoraku Shunsui said, after old man Shan hears this, you will be the first to be scolded. The scene changes. Seirei, the main courtroom. Kyoraku Shunsui proposed to room 46 that Changya, the third seed of the first division, be appointed to be responsible for the affairs of the first division, that is, the deputy captain. Aiz Nanao is responsible for docking with Kyoraku Shunsui and is also the vice captain. And both of them are good at team matters. Kyoraku Shunsui asked them to help each other. No. You can't do anything arbitrarily. The old man in room 46 directly rejected Kyoraku Shunsui's proposal to serve as two vice captains. The captain has the right to appoint the vice captain. Kyoraku Shunsui ignored the attitude of room 46 and responded decisively. He came here to inform room 46 of his decision, not to get their permission. Moreover, the appointment of the vice captain by the captain is also a rule set by room 46. If they don't agree, aren't they flouting their own rules? Will Vice Captain Aiz and Sanchioki become the vice captains of the first division? Toshirō outside the video was a little surprised. It is indeed unprecedented to have two vice captains in one squad. From now on, we will call the leader of the Beijing Orchestra the chief captain. Jashiro glanced at Kyoraku Shunsui and smiled. You still call me captain. I don't think you can beat me like old man Yishan. Kyoraku Shunsui doesn't want to hear himself called captain. I have to say that Captain Kyoband is really nice to Vice Captain Aiz. After joining the first team, he even wanted to recruit her. Kurotsuchi Mayuri shook her head and sighed. What do you mean by poaching? Nanao-chan is mine, right? Kyoraku Shunsui quickly explained, bringing his people to the first team. Is there any problem? Actually, Captain, it should be enough for one of Changya's 3 seats to serve as vice captain. After Aiz Nanao glanced at Kyoraku with moving eyes, she turned to look at Genshiro Okiga in the Shinigami queue. Hey, you still know the leader of the Beijing Orchestra better. No one can handle the handover of some things better than you. Okiga Genshiro didn't mind having 2 vice captains. He was already older, so it would be nice to be responsible for part of the squad's practical affairs. Yes, can I suggest 2 vice captains? Sui Feng suddenly said, if it doesn't work, just change Omeda. The corner of Omeda's mouth twitched, and she quickly grabbed Sui Feng's captain, Yuri, and said coquettishly, Captain, I don't agree, please don't abandon me. Bang. Return to the video screen. Kyoraku Shunsui stood in the middle of the empty main court, facing room 46, like a prisoner. But he stuck to his principles and left them speechless. Then I will continue. My first job as captain is to teach Tsuraki Kenpachi swordsmanship. Kyoraku Shunsui's calm head suddenly raised, a look of determination flashed in his eyes. What? After hearing this sentence, everyone in room 46 trembled. Tsuraki Kenpachi is an unstable hidden danger in Seirei. If you want to teach him swordsmanship now, wouldn't you be shooting yourself in the foot? Kyoraku Shunsui ignored the reactions of others and continued. Although Captain Kuchiki and his party have already gone to the Spirit King Palace, there is no guarantee that they will be able to recover and return. Tsuraki Kenpachi's combat ability is very important. We can't let him stop in this state. No, if his power continues to grow, no one will be able to stop him once he rebels. A member of the 46th chamber slammed the table to express his disapproval. The others all echoed. Have you forgotten, when Yuan Luze taught him the cutting technique, he only let him learn it for 1 day? What should we do? Kyoraku Shunsui did not tolerate them at all. Now Soul Society cannot withstand the enemy's next attack. Can you protect your own lives? If possible, there is no need for Tsuraki Kenpachi to learn swordsmanship. If you can't, and you insist on refusing, you are just trying to die, right? These ignorant old people should all be killed. Tsuraki Kenpachi outside the video yelled angrily. Rebellion? If there is a rebellion, the first thing to do is to kill you, a group of 4,060 people? How far have these old guys come to? Don't you still know how far they have come? Sui Feng looked dissatisfied. They all see what room 46 usually does. The captains dare not speak out in anger. After all, room 46 holds the power. The Shinigami even felt that it was the right decision to kill all the 46th chamber before Aizen defected. Although this was part of Aizen's plan, the results were very satisfying. Once the leader of the Kyoband said these words, they probably wouldn't be able to refute them, Rangaku said. If you still disagree, then when the Quincy group of Star-Crossed Knights attacks later, let these old guys go to the front line. Return to the video screen. After hearing what Kyoraku Shunsui said, everyone in room 46. They were all speechless. In an instant, the master turned inwards and there was total silence. I acquiesced to it, Captain. Kyoraku Shunsui's lips curved into an imperceptible smile. Turning to look at the main door, Immediately afterwards, Unohana Retsu gave a lecture in the room. Captain Zaraki, I leave it to you, Captain Unohana. No, first generation Kenpachi, Unohana 8000 Ryu. Captain Unohana, is his name Unohana Yachiru? Kusajishi Yachiru outside the video suddenly became excited. Isn't Yachiru your own name? Why is Unohana Retsu also called Yachiru? At this time, Zaraki Kenpachi had a smile on his face, looked at Yachiru and said fondly, Yachiru, your name was named after Captain Unohana. Hearing this, Yachinryu was stunned for a moment. His name was given by Zaraki Kenpachi, Kusajishi Yachiru. Zaraki Kenpachi found himself in Kusuka district, his surname was Kusuka, Yachiru. Could it be that he was named Yachiru because he admired Captain Unohana? Thinking back to what Kenpachi said to himself at the beginning, Yachiru, I hope there is only one person with this name. Now I give it to you. My name is Kenpachi. That is the title given to the strongest Shinigami of the era. This is my name from now on. Combined with Unohana Retsu being first generation Kenpachi, Kusajishi Yachiru figured it out. Unohana Retsu handed over both Kenpachi and Yachiru to Zaraki, and he was the most important part of Zaraki's heart, so he was given the name Yachiru. Aiken. Yachiru secretly showed an affectionate look and glanced at Kenpachi. Zaraki Kenpachi stroked Yachiru's head and smiled lightly. I didn't expect that the original Yachiru would be Captain Unohana. Tōshirō was also a little unbelievable. Kyoraku Shunsui bowed his head and smiled. Captain Unohana is a strong man who has mastered all styles and sword styles in the world. Vice Captain Kusuka, you have to work hard. Kusajishi Yachiru clenched his little hands and said, yes, I will. Return to the video screen. Soul Society, Junyang Underground Prison, the lowest level is endless. A cell in one of the prisons burst open. The extremely dark cell welcomed the long-lost sunshine. Zaraki Kenpachi stood at the door carrying Zanpakuto. At this time, he was not wearing an eye patch, and a bloodthirsty smile appeared on his face. Walking into the depths of the cell, Zaraki Kenpachi said, it's such an exaggerated stage that we can get the permission to use it here. And standing in front with her back to him was Unohana Retsu. Her delicate and gentle voice sounded, this is the captain's order. This, Wu Jian, is just like its name. It has no gaps in infinite space. Therefore, the conclusion is that there is no other place where you can swing your sword to your heart's content except here. Otherwise, sinless people like us cannot step into this place. Suya Palace. 5.3. Are you fighting in the Mujian? Zaraki Kenpachi, your pomp is so grand. Don't hide your admiration. He will be imprisoned in Wujian in the future, and at that time in the video, he was already in Wujian, right? Moreover, part of the seal has been lifted by Mole City Shuangya. If you fight, it's just a fight, don't disturb me. Infinitely. When the video was played of you watch meeting Aizen's seal had already been broken. Hearing Unohana Retsu say that he is an innocent person, Zaraki Kenpachi showed a contemptuous smile. Innocent person? How did you say it? You're like me. If you don't have the power, just. Yulu Zalu sneered, and the sharp laughter was disturbing. Shut up. If you put it this way, there are 3 Kenpachi in Mugen, and they are the same third generation. Maybe he will be imprisoned in Wujian again in the end, and the time of being imprisoned will definitely not increase by 18,000 years. The battlefield turns out to be Wujian, maybe I can take this opportunity to sneak out. Unohana Retsu turned slightly sideways, and the dim light shone on her dark face, exuding a cold aura. He is a sinner. Unohana Retsu, with her hair disheveled, has completely lost the gentleness of the captain of the 4th division, and seems to have turned back into the good fighting, murderous Unohana Yachi Ryu. Yulu Zalu immediately pointed out Mole City Shuangyi's mistake. Don't think about it starting with sword. Before that, the Arankar named Xian had invaded Soul Society, and you took advantage of that opportunity to escape. This shows that when the Quincy invaded, Mole City Shuang had also escaped from prison and was defeated by Zaraki Kenpachi. Mole Chengshuang also said indifferently, there is only one Kenpachi in an era, how can the 3rd generation be the same? The video screen continues to play, and can 3rd generation dormitory be used in this place? Mole Chengshuang also shouted angrily. Chapter 137. All villains meet the 1st generation captain again, Yoha panics. At this moment, the atmosphere is filled with ultimate oppression. Even Unohana Retsu's voice became much deeper. You are weak now, so I suggested that you should come here. Zaraki Kenpachi smiled contemptuously. It's just as I thought, isn't it great? The winner is the captain, and the loser is the sinner. Whether I lose at your hands or win against you, it will be hell. You talk a lot today. Unohana Retsu turned around. I still like you who are taciturn. Every time I hear your voice, my only wound will sting. At the same time, the knife mark on her chest was clearly revealed. Captain Unohana. Is there a wound there? Outside the video, Tōshirō's eyes widened and he couldn't believe it. No wonder Unohana Retsu always tied her hair into double braids in front of her body. It turned out to be to cover the wound. With a wound of this magnitude, who could inflict such great harm to Captain Unohana? Kashiwamura Sajin looked at Zaraki Kenpachi. Is it Captain Zaraki? Zaraki Kenpachi didn't say anything, but you could tell from his expression that it was him who did it. Return to the video screen. You're not the only one whose wounds are stinging. Zaraki Kenpachi glared angrily, and immediately threw Zanpakuto towards Maozong. However, at this time, the scene suddenly changed. Like vernacular. Unohana Yasunryu served as the captain of the 11th Division in 1st Generation Gode 13, which is known as the strongest in history, and created the prototype of the current 11th Division. At the same time, the appearance of the 13 members of 1st Generation Gode 13 appeared on the screen. Before Mr. Yamamoto took a fancy to her strength and promoted her to captain, she was an unprecedented villain in Soul Society. There are countless schools in the world, and countless blades are in my hands. So she named herself Yachinryu. At the same time, the 1st Generation Gode 13 are killing each other on the screen. Kinraku Yutofara, Tomogiri Shishima, Suna Nobitsuna, Saito Immortal, Shikatori Hatsunsai, etc. Every 1st Generation captain looks like a big villain. When everyone saw this scene, cold sweat broke out all over their bodies. Are these the Gode 13 of 1st Generation? Sui Feng frowned tightly. Why don't they look like good people? Everyone is evil 14. Is that little loli with a ponytail also one of the original Gode 13? Tōshirō swallowed secretly. Her behavior is completely inconsistent with her appearance. Ha ha ha. Unohana Retsu and Kyoraku Shunsui couldn't help but laugh when Tōshirō said Saito was a little Lolita. What a little loli, that guy is cruel, even more fierce than Unohana Retsu. That's the captain of the 6th Division of 1st Generation, Lao Immortal, Mao Jili explained. Team 6. Byakuya Kuchiki took a breath, so that little loli can be regarded as his senior. Saito Immortal. This name really fits her appearance when she was carrying out killings. There are even monsters with mouths full of gold teeth. Rangaku looked at Jiamyenjing Yanti with a hint of fear. Jiamyenjing Yanti has a strong build, a ring of gold teeth on the outside of his lips, and a weird smile from time to time, which looks very scary. That's the captain of the 9th Division, Ju Mianjing Yanti, Shu Bing. You can get to know him. Unohana Retsu smiled at Shuhei. Shuhei is now the acting captain of Division 9, and he has a certain bond with Kumin Ietetsu. Shu Bing smiled stiffly. It was better not to understand the captain who looked like this. There are also the captain of the 12th Division, Zenshoji Yuba, who looks like Kenpachi Kyugashiro with pigtails, the Nigoku Saizo who is older than Yamamoto Genryuzai, and so on. All the Shinigami were dumbfounded. These people are all murderous demons. It can be seen that the 1st Generation captains are all ridiculously strong, Kira said with emotion. No matter who you choose, he is definitely the strongest among all previous captains. Except of course the 11th Squadron. It doesn't matter if you are strong, it's just the past tense. Zaraki Kenpachi smiled scornfully. He wanted to see who would win in the battle between Unohana Retsu and himself 100 years later. Invisible Empire. Sitting on the throne, Yuhabach suddenly felt a biting chill. These guys, I will definitely remember your faces. A flash of extreme coldness flashed in Yuhabach's eyes. If he saw them again, he would definitely kill them. Return to the video screen. Zaraki Kenpachi jumped up and struck with a powerful slash that seemed to split a mountain, but Unohana Retsu didn't even blink. She waved her hand easily, and Zaraki's Zanpakuto was led aside. Before Zaraki Kenpachi could be surprised, Shizuku Koff was already on his neck. The knife cut through Kenpachi's skin. Kenpachi reacted and counterattacked with Nozarashi. Unohana Retsu raised his toes and stepped on the handle of Nozarashi's knife. He jumped up slightly and slashed with the knife, but was neutralized by Zaraki Kenpachi's right foot. Unohana Retsu stood firm after being bounced, and the next second he bounced off again, colliding with Kenpachi's blade. The Seirei and Shinigami were dumbfounded by this set of flowing slashes. The swordsmanship is so strong. It feels like Captain Unohana has no strength at all, and Captain Zaraki is a little unable to withstand it. Shubing looked at Zaraki Kenpachi. He originally thought that Zaraki Kenpachi's combat effectiveness was strong enough. As a result, facing Unohana Retsu was like wielding a sword in front of Guangong, with no power to parry at all. No wonder you call yourself an 8000 Ryu. Captain Unohana's swordsmanship is definitely the highest in the 3 realms. His pupils exploded the day before yesterday. If he had been fighting Zaraki Kenpachi, he would have been hacked to death in the first blow. However, at this time, Kyoraku Shunsui had an apologetic look on his face. He murmured, "Teaching swordsmanship is such a cunning way of saying. No one knows better than him that once Unohana Retsu and Zaraki Kenpachi draw their swords at each other, one of them will definitely die. And this person who lost his life can only be Unohana Retsu." When he saw himself in the main court and made this suggestion to room 46, Kyoraku Shunsui felt a little entangled in his heart. Why Unohana Retsu never takes action is because Yamamoto Genryuzai is Seirei's strongest spear, and Unohana Retsu, the captain of the 4th team, is Seirei's backing. When Yamamoto Genryuzai was alive, there was no need for Unohana Retsu to fight, let alone Zaraki Kenpachi to learn swordsmanship. But after the death of Yamamoto Genryuzai, the last supporter has to sharpen his blade and become Zaraki Kenpachi. Kyoraku, This is also Captain Yunohana's wish. Jashiro can see Kyoraku Shunsui's concerns at a glance, but fighting Zaraki Kenpachi is definitely one of the things Yunohana Retsu wants to do the most. Return to the video screen. It's really admirable to take off the blindfold as soon as you come up. Yunohana Retsu noticed from the beginning that Zaraki Kenpachi came to Mujian without wearing a blindfold. But once you take off the blindfold, your upper limit is limited. Kai. Another knife hit Kenpachi's shoulder, and blood spurted out. Yunohana Retsu retreated smoothly, her momentum opened a path, and dust flew around her. She once again showed the contemptuous and biting eyes of a great villain. Too weak. It's not that Kenpachi is too weak, it's that you are too strong. You only wield the knife with one hand and the other hand does nothing. It's really hard to think that you are enjoying the battle. Yunohana Retsu stretched out his left hand holding the hidden weapon. To enjoy fighting, you should devote yourself to it. In Kenpachi's state, it can only be said that he is fighting, not enjoying it at all. You are the one. Kenpachi pulled out the dark blade on his shoulder, threw it to the ground, and said dissatisfied. In order to hurt me, you don't hesitate to use such trivial tricks. You have really changed. Suddenly, Kenpachi became furious and roared. You are nothing like the person I dreamed of. How can you say anything about admiration to your opponent in battle? Yunohana Retsu was also angry and charged at him like a beast. The meat was instantly thrown away by Nozarashi and pressed against Zaraki Kenpachi's neck. Invisible Empire, Palace of Ice. What kind of fighting power is this? There is fear in Zaraki Kenpachi's eyes. Gerald was very shocked. Before this, he had the impression that Zaraki Kenpachi was a tough guy who was fearless. Dared to face the tough Yuhabach, and facing himself in the holy body, Zaraki Kenpachi also fought like crazy, without any fear. But when he arrived in front of Yunohana Retsu, what was going on with that frightened look in his eyes? It's rare. The first generation Kenpachi is indeed more ruthless. The Shinigami who fought with His Majesty 1,000 years ago is so ruthless in his bones. It is indeed far superior to the Shinigami of this era. Even as an enemy, Asano could not help but sigh. A man of this level is only ranked 18th, Lee Todo swallowed secretly. Her current identity is that of the 4th Division, the captain of the rescue team. If she has been serving as the 11th Division and accepted the name of Kenpachi, she will definitely be more than that. Robert said. The same goes for Yamamoto Genryuzai. When the team members were killers of the murderous group, they could easily kill the first-generation Star-Crossed Knights led by their friend Habach. But after Godai 13 claimed the name of Guardian, he was tortured and killed by Yuhabach 1,000 years later. Compassion will only bring weakness, not strength. Return to the video screen. Yunohana Retsu, who was pressing Kenpachi's neck with his cough, regained his composure. I haven't changed at all, it's just that when I fought with you, I didn't have the energy to use these trivial skills. You want to say that I have become weak? Zaraki's voice became deeper. I have always longed for you. Whether it's trees, insects, or even people, they all look the same. It's so boring, like a man wielding a sword alone in the dark, but fighting with you after that, I tasted terror for the first time. For the first time, I understood the joy of fighting. He wants to fight like Yunohana Retsu. I haven't been able to defeat you. Are you, the one I admire, going to die here? Kenpachi said, tears actually flowing from his eyes. Of course it was not because he was afraid of death, but because he was unwilling to be killed by the longed for Yunohana Retsu. Captain Zaraki actually cried. Rukia outside the video looked at Zaraki Kenpachi in surprise. I never thought that a person like Zaraki Kenpachi would shed tears. It was beyond her expectation. Maybe this is what Captain Zaraki has been pursuing. Shubing followed Rukia's eyes and looked at Kenpachi. Although he couldn't empathize with her, those two pairs of crystal-clear tears already explained something. The Yunohana Retsu in the picture showed no mercy, and Shizuku's instigation went straight through Kenpachi's throat. Blood flowed down the blade of Ru Shizuku's knife, dripping to the ground. Zaraki Kenpachi's eyes widened, and the blood from his mouth sprayed onto Yunohana Retsu's face, but the latter remained indifferent. Hateful. Zaraki Kenpachi seemed to have noticed something. After returning to consciousness, he found that his neck was intact. Damage, and everything that just happened was an illusion. You seem to have lost consciousness for a moment. Yunohana Retsu said calmly. Nonsense. Zaraki Kenpachi was unwilling to accept this result and broke away from Yunohana Retsu in an instant. What happened just now? Zaraki Kenpachi was a little confused. He clearly felt a sense of suffocation just now, and being stabbed in the throat seemed to be real, but why was this an illusion? Damn it, I don't have time to think too much, now I can only think about the battle in front of me. On the other side, after Yunohana Retsu stepped back, he thought to himself, Zaraki Kenpachi, you will not die. Every time you cross the line of life and death, you will become stronger. This is exactly what you have done to yourself. Wrong. This is my sin too. At this time, the screen changed. Hundreds of years ago, Rukongai, it's raining lightly. Captain, even if we search the entire Rukongai, we probably won't be able to find a strong person that satisfies the captain. Shinigami of Division 11 reported to Yunohana Retsu. You actually saw through my true intentions. Yunohana Retsu glanced at Shinigami with a ferocious look and said coldly. Because no matter how many of Rukongai's minions are killed, it will do nothing to maintain the peace of Seirei. Shinigami's eyes suddenly shifted to the mountain of corpses piled aside. How high this mountain of corpses is piled represents how dissatisfied Captain 703 is. Nani? Were these people killed by Captain Unohana? Rangaku outside the video swallowed secretly. This is too cruel. She glanced sideways at Unohana Retsu, a hint of panic in her eyes. However, Unohana Retsu smiled in front of him, causing Rangaku to suppress his smile. Good guy, don't look at me. Rangaku's inner monologue is nothing more than that. Captain Unohana did not kill him, Zaraki Kenpachi said decisively. Judging from the reaction of the Shinigami of Team 11 in the video, it does seem like Unohana Retsu was killing someone in search of an opponent. But those people were indeed not killed by her, so you can't frame good people. In the picture, Unohana Retsu was a little surprised to see the mountain of corpses appear, and asked, when did this mountain of corpses appear? What? Wasn't it the captain's fault? The team members were a little confused. However, at this time, a figure appeared on the mountain of corpses. At first glance, it turned out to be a child. The young man Zaraki Kenpachi looked down with fearful eyes. Where did this kid come from? The team members were a little surprised. But suddenly, the young man Zaraki Kenpachi jumped down suddenly. Unohana Retsu was stunned in place. She was tired of swords and fighting. Therefore, she wanders around eager to find an opponent who can please the sword. Click. Unohana Retsu used a meat sword to block Zaraki Kenpachi's slash, but was 10 steps too late. Nozarashi passed through Unohana Retsu's chest. Perhaps it was the sword that led similar people who were also tired of everything to meet. How happy it was, Unohana Retsu never thought about it. She never expected that she would experience unprecedented pleasure during the battle with the young man Zaraki. She also did not expect that Zaraki Kenpachi would actually put himself in the shackles during the battle with her. Lock. Is Captain Zaraki already so powerful when he was young? Outside the video, Tōshirō was in disbelief. Zaraki Kenpachi from 100 years ago was able to defeat Unohana Retsu. No wonder Zaraki Kenpachi and Unohana Retsu in the video had such a hard time fighting. It turns out that there are always shackles in their bodies. Are Captain Zaraki's blindfolds just shackles? Shuhei was confused. Zaraki Kenpachi's eye patch could indeed absorb Ryotsu, but it was not the key to the shackles. Of course not. Didn't you see that Captain Zaraki took off his blindfold at the beginning? He is not yet Captain Unohana's opponent. Omeda said seriously. Isn't the mountain of corpses the embodiment of Captain Zaraki's strength? Maybe it's because he sealed his own power after fighting Captain Unohana, Sui Feng analyzed. It is also true that the shackles of Zaraki Kenpachi in Unohana Retsu's mouth are the seals derived from himself. Return to the video screen. Zaraki Kenpachi was knocked back again. He stopped in time and continued to charge forward. This time he accurately slashed Unohana Retsu's arm. It hit me. I was swinging the sword consciously before, but now I'm attacking subconsciously. Every time he wakes up from his trance, Zaraki Kenpachi feels like a phoenix, reborn from nirvana. Chapter 138. Bankai all gone. Congratulations, Sister Wa, please subscribe. Zaraki Kenpachi, you probably haven't realized it yet. You subconsciously sealed your power during the battle. Why did you narrowly lose in the battle with Kurosaki Ichigo? Why did you lose in the battle with Niutouxu? A narrow victory in the battle. It's because the opponent is too powerful, and others must think so. But Unohana Retsu knew that was not the case. This is all because Zaraki Kenpachi suppressed his power to ultimate. In that battle, they both felt unprecedented pleasure. The only difference was that only Zaraki Kenpachi tasted the joy of extreme fighting in that battle. This is Unohana Retsu's sin. You must be very happy. There are weak people all around you, and there is not even an opponent who can test the sword. For you like that, I am the first time you have encountered an evenly matched enemy, but I am weaker than you. Tōshirō outside the video suddenly frowned, and Unohana Retsu's self-narration really shocked him. Unohana Retsu actually said that he is weaker than Zaraki Kenpachi. This is so unexpected. Not to mention anything else, the swordsmanship demonstrated by Unohana Retsu just now can completely surpass all the Shinigami present. At this level, Unohana Retsu also said that he is weaker than Zaraki Kenpachi. One can only imagine how strong Zaraki Kenpachi really is. Captain Unohana, don't be so humble. If you are weaker than Captain Zaraki, how will we survive? Kyoraku Shunsui joked. Although Zaraki Kenpachi has sealed his strength, he's not that much weaker than him. It's a bit scary to think about it. Captain Zaraki was able to crush Captain Unohana when he was young. Omeda looked at Zaraki Kenpachi with trembling lips. As long as Zaraki Kenpachi thought about it, it would be a 50-50 situation with pushing and fighting. Return to the video screen. Unohana Retsu looked very guilty. It was the first time in Zaraki Kenpachi's life that he had encountered an opponent who could be called an enemy. For Kenpachi, once he loses her, he can no longer enjoy fighting. In order to cater to the weak Unohana Retsu, Zaraki Kenpachi subconsciously suppressed and imprisoned his own power bit by bit. Unohana Retsu fell into despair, and Zaraki Kenpachi had to seal his power on his own. She was extremely desperate for her own incompetence. At a certain moment, she realized that whenever Zaraki Kenpachi was fighting a powerful enemy and wandering on the edge of life and death, he would break the layer of locks on yourself. Become your old self again. Yunohana Retsu pierced Zaraki Kenpachi's throat again and pulled out the meat. Shizuku coughed. The blood dyed her. Captain Haori read. I am strong, stronger than anyone but you, so let me kill you, no matter if it is 100 times or 1,000 times, so let me heal you, no matter how many times. Until you become your true self. Then surpass her and move to a higher and farther place. The meat. Shizuku cough passed through Zaraki Kenpachi's chest again. In order for Zaraki Kenpachi to find herself again, she decided to risk her life. This battle was extremely brutal, but Zaraki Kenpachi had gradually regained his former feelings, and he found the right opportunity to slash Yunohana Retsu's body. But in the next second, Yunohana Retsu's meat. Shizuku slashed at him. Zaraki didn't even react. He slashed wildly and unforgivingly. Do you think I'm dead? Naive. You can't possibly not know why I practice Kaido. Bankai. All done. Yunohana Retsu's hand held the meat tightly and wiped it away. The blood instantly covered the blade of the knife, and then the blade turned into an extended and curved blood blade. Boom. The dark space instantly turned into blood red, as if he was in a river of blood, with strong blood flowing out of the ground. Zanpakuto meat. Shizuku reassembled from the blood and was held in Yunohana Retsu's hand. At this moment, Yunohana Retsu is the bloodthirsty demon. Is this Captain Yunohana's solution? The Shinigami outside the video were immediately stunned. Totally don't know what to say. Blood. The whole river of blood. Is this still the gentle captain of the 4th division they know? This Bankai is a little too bloody, Rangaku said with a stiff face. Indeed. Indeed. Kyoraku Shunsui couldn't help but gulped. He knew Yunohana Retsu was very strong. But this was the first time he saw Yunohana Retsu's Bankai with his own eyes. As a first-generation Kenpachi, except for the battle with Yuhabach, the superior Yunohana Retsu generally has no use for Bankai. There is no chance to meet veteran captains like Kyoraku Shunsui. But after seeing it with my own eyes, I was extremely shocked. This world. Captain Yunohana, he's so handsome, isn't he? Kurosaki Ichigo directly became Yunohana Retsu's little fanboy. The contrast is simply amazing. I never thought there was this side to Yunohana Retsu. It is no exaggeration to describe him as a bloodthirsty warrior. This must hurt a lot. Inoue Orihime looked at Yunohana Retsu, who was covered in blood, with some concern. Bankai's process is indeed very distressing, but for Yunohana Retsu, this is not a pain at all. Renji, when you return to Seirei, you must not provoke Captain Yunohana. Ichigo said to Renji as if he was giving instructions. How dare you? I have always respected Captain Yunohana, and now, I respect him even more. Invisible Empire. Look, these Shinigami from Soul Society are not good things, are they? Mass-killing Belsi complained with bloodthirsty eyes. If his ability to kill a lot of people can be considered a bloodthirsty demon, then Yunohana Retsu is a demon. What a cruel Shinigami, they are the biggest evil people in the world. Masuko became excited. Such a great villain should be eliminated by a superhero like me. Calm down for a while. Asenik glanced at Masuko with contempt. With your strength, you still want to destroy Yunohana Retsu? I can kill you with just sword skills without Bankai. On the throne. Yuhabach quietly looked at the sea of blood in the picture. Reliving this scene made him deeply moved, but this time I was watching on video and the situation was different. It's still the same posture as before, but does it still have the same power as it did thousands of years ago? Return to the video screen. The child's play ends here. After Bankai, Yunohana Retsu seems to be a different person. Even though her eyes were fierce before, now her whole pupils exude a suffocating aura. If you look at each other, you will definitely feel a deep chill. Seeing this, Zaraki Kenpachi became furious, roaring like a rampaging beast, and rushed towards Yunohana Retsu. Bang! The two men's blades collided and slashed at each other. The blade cut across his body, but the wound on Yunohana Retsu disappeared in the blink of an eye. Kenpachi's wounds are also slowly recovering. Yunohana Retsu stirred the edge of the sword, and the moment the blood peeled away, it turned into several blades. The two of them were fighting in the blood like crazy. In this Bankai's space, wouldn't Captain Yunohana be harmed? Tōshirō outside the video wondered. It was obviously hit by Zaraki Kenpachi, but it was repaired instantly. Similar to the expansion of a field, you will get certain attribute bonuses when you are in the field. From the effect point of view, Yunohana Retsu's Bankai creates a blood river field, which can not only control blood, but also obtain therapeutic effects. In other words, as long as he is within the realm, Yunohana Retsu is invincible. Captain Yunohana knows Kaido, and is in the field created by Bankai, so it is normal to recover from injuries. Sui Feng explained. Yunohana Retsu also nodded secretly, seeming to indicate that Sui Feng's words were correct. It's great to have this kind of battle, it's so exciting. Zaraki Kenpachi went crazy. Since fighting Yunohana Retsu 1,000 years ago, he has never felt such a fierce battle. At this moment, I want to fight Yunohana Retsu immediately. Return to the video screen. Facing such Yunohana Retsu, Zaraki Kenpachi was not timid at all, and even became more excited. Suddenly, Kenpachi's consciousness fell into a trance again. Although he was knocked to the ground, he felt joy from the heart, and his body seemed to be melting little by little. Ah, it's melting, gradually melting. This was a pleasure he had never experienced before. He didn't know what was happening, everything seemed wrong. The skin on the body began to peel off bit by bit, and half of the body turned into a skeleton. Everything is wrong. Why? Why? Soon, Kenpachi's body completely turned into a skeleton. It was as if Baragan was returning to the sword. Oh, I see. Kenpachi was stunned for a moment, looking at Unohana Retsu in front of him, who also turned into bones, and seemed to understand something. Have I been sleeping so far? I kept replaying the scene of my confrontation with you in my sleep. I always thought it was an unknown contest, but now I finally know it thanks to you. Zaraki Kenpachi became enlightened and became crazy again. The bones also turned into skin again. He attacked with a knife, as happy as a child who was rewarded with candy, roaring. This is fighting. What's going on? In Unohana Retsu's Bankai, what is the white bone that just turned into? Is it an illusion? Grimjow outside the video was a little surprised. If it was an illusion, it shouldn't be just the white bones appearing in Zaraki Kenpachi's eyes. Others could not see it. It shouldn't be an illusion, haven't you noticed? In this Bankai's field, Unohana Retsu has extremely strong recovery ability. Even if it turns into white bones, it may have a healing effect. Harabel speaks his mind. Just like Baragan returned to the sword, even if he turns into bones, he can still return to his original appearance. This kind of Bankai's power is really terrifying. It can not only heal itself, but also help others heal. Lily Knight sighed. No wonder she was ranked 18, her strength was indeed ridiculously strong. Only here can Zaraki Kenpachi fight freely and find himself again. Noitala said he understood. After all, that is defeating one's own opponent. Return to the video screen. Crazy Zaraki Kenpachi jumped up and slashed Unohana Retsu's face with a knife. The knife mark then broke open, and blood spilled out. But soon, the wound recovered as before. Hey, did you post it? I like fighting. I like it very much, I like it to the point where I can't help myself. Zaraki Kenpachi said as he chopped. Well, I discovered it, and it was much earlier than you. I said Zaraki Kenpachi, you learned how to seal yourself in order to enjoy fighting forever, and I mastered the method of healing myself in order to enjoy fighting forever. Unohana Retsu he charged again with his sword, but now I can be sure that all the power I gained is for this battle. There can only be one Kenpachi in an era. This is an unshakable law. It is also a fate that cannot be escaped, because when a strong man discovers another strong man, he is unable to swing his sword for himself. At that time, whether his blade chooses to kill another strong person or create another strong person, he can only point at one of them. And Unohana Retsu's blade is the latter. At this time, Kenpachi rushed in again. But Unohana Retsu didn't offer any resistance this time. Farewell, the only person in this world who can please me. Kai. Nozarashi stabbed Unohana Retsu through the wound on his chest. Well done, Zaraki Kenpachi, that's it for now. Unohana Retsu said, and the meat in his hand fell to the ground. Kenpachi quickly put Nozarashi away and hugged Unohana Retsu. Is this the end? Hey, are you just going to die like this? Zaraki Kenpachi was as scared as a child. Bankai's blood river has disappeared, and Unohana Retsu's injuries can no longer be repaired. Blood trickled down her chest. Not allowed to die is not enough. Please, don't die, please, don't die, Kenpachi roared into the sky. Captain. Katetsu Izan outside the video suddenly looked terrified. Didn't Kyoraku Shunsui say that Unohana Retsu came to teach Zaraki Kenpachi swordsmanship? Why did it end like this? Katetsu Izan doesn't want to accept it, and he doesn't want to accept it. There can only be one Kenpachi in an era, and Captain Unohana did what she wanted to do. Kyoraku Shunsui felt sad when he saw this situation. Unohana Retsu was the person he respected the most besides Yamamoto Genryuzai. Her death undoubtedly caused a big blow to Kyoraku Shunsui's heart. But in the future, he will be the captain and will have many things to consider. And Unohana Retsu should also bear this. Unohana Retsu smiled at Katetsu Izan and did not feel any complaint about his death in the video. There was even a sense of relief. Zaraki Kenpachi sealed the power because of her, which is also the sin she said. Now releasing Kenpachi's power is a relief. Zaraki Kenpachi also had some subtle changes in his eyes when he looked at Unohana Retsu. Just like himself in the video, he didn't want to see Unohana Retsu end his life. He hadn't had enough fun fighting at this level. Return to the video screen. Looking at the helpless and roaring Zaraki Kenpachi, Unohana Retsu opened his eyes and thought. Like a child, there is nothing to be sad about. You have regained your strength and defeated. Although many battles will become boring one-man games again, in front of you, I have an enemy that allows you to fight to your heart's content. Those people are the Quincy led by Yuhabach. Not only enemies, but also companions with comparable strength. Most importantly, there is also a partner who awakens with Zaraki Kenpachi. Everything Unohana Retsu has gained so far has been given to Zaraki Kenpachi, and she has no reservations. Even the name Kenpachi, which had not been passed down to him, was finally no longer hers. Please bless me, Zaraki Kenpachi, for me who is about to pass away. Ah, I am able to complete my mission and pass away with joy, what a blessing it is. Seirei. Kenpachi turned his head suddenly, he was angry about Sister Hua's death. Who is calling me? Get out of here. First Team Shen. He could only mourn in this way. Kenpachi, Zaraki Kenpachi, Yamamoto Genryuzai's eyes darkened deeply. My name is, Nozarashi. Is it at this time that Captain Zaraki knows his Zanpakuto name? Who's calling me? Yunohana Retsu fell to the ground, lifeless. The video ends here. Although I knew Zanpakuto's name through a video before, it's sad to hear Nozarashi's voice through this method. Plop. Are you worthy of knowing Zanpakuto's name only if you have real power? Zaraki Kenpachi raised the corners of his mouth with a contemptuous smile. You finally heard my voice, the one who has been closer to you than anyone else, who has been watching you. My voice, first meeting, Zaraki Kenpachi. Of course, Kenpachi also felt indescribably sad about Yunohana Retsu's death, but he couldn't show it on his face. Suddenly, a female voice came from behind Zaraki Kenpachi. Shuhei sighed, if it wasn't for Yunohana Retsu who unlocked Kenpachi's seal, maybe he would never know his Zanpakuto name. Chapter 139. Kurotsuchi Mayuri is on the list, Shinigami owes you an Oscar. The throne of Suya Palace. Aizen felt a little regretful when he saw Yunohana Retsu die like this. As such a powerful Shinigami, he shouldn't end up like this. Even if there is no existence with the fighting power of Zaraki Kenpachi, won't there be many other Shinigami to deal with Yuhabach and other Quincy in the future? Byakuya Kuchiki, Hitsugaya Tōshirō, Kyoraku Shunsui. Aren't these all strong men? If Yunohana Retsu hadn't died, he would definitely have become one of them. It's a pity that he died under the knife of Zaraki Kenpachi, which is a bit sad. Of course, in the eyes of others, Yunohana Retsu's death is really sad, but for Yunohana Retsu herself, everything she did was to wash away the sins she had committed. Invisible Empire. A hint of regret flashed in Yuhabach's eyes. If possible, he hoped that Yunohana Retsu could die in his hometown. A shameful apology. Yunohana. Yachinryu, have you finally become a loser of the times? Yuhabach closed his eyes slightly. Soon, Yunohana Retsu's name appeared on the combat power gold list. At this time, the next person's name has already appeared on the screen. Number 17 on the combat power list, Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Name. Kurotsuchi Mayuri Faction. Seirei Identity, Shinigami. Competencies. Bankai, Technology X, 94 Defense, 96. Speed. 95. 97 Vitality, 97 Kido, 92 Ryotsu, 95 Combat Strength, 1,400,000. Captain Nirvana is actually in front of Captain Yunohana. Kashiwamura Sajin's eyes widened instantly. It's hard to believe how Kurotsuchi Mayuri can be ranked ahead of Yunohana Retsu. Apart from anything else, judging from Kurotsuchi Mayuri's position, the captain of the 12th Division and the director of the Technology Development Bureau, it seems that he is engaged in scientific research. On the other hand, Yunohana Retsu, the former captain of the 8th Division and first-generation Kenpachi. There is a certain gap in identity. What, Captain Komamura, don't you believe me? Kurotsuchi Mayuri glanced at Kashiwamura Sajin and raised the corners of her mouth slightly. I think you are biased against me. No, Kashiwamura Sajin shook his head. On the surface, he shook his head, but in his heart he just didn't believe that Kurotsuchi Mayuri could be ranked 17th. No matter how powerful you are, can you be as powerful as first-generation Kenpachi? Captain Nirvana's numerical value panel looks pretty good, and his combat power actually surpasses Captain Yunohana's by 100,000. Shuhei was extremely surprised. In terms of vitality, Kurotsuchi Mayuri was as high as 97. Intelligence is also 97. There is no doubt about his intelligence. Kurotsuchi Mayuri is a first-rate being in both inventing and analyzing things. And in terms of abilities, Kurotsuchi Mayuri is also unique in the existence of technology. The rest of the captains are Bankai. Even Yunohana Retsu didn't have the ability to use swordsmanship, but Kurotsuchi Mayuri 403 actually showed technology. Isn't this a recognition of Kurotsuchi Mayuri's strength? Oh, Captain Nirvana is the solid backing of our Seirei, and technology is naturally his most representative ability. Kyoraku Shunsui smiled and stroked his hat. I wonder if Urahara Kazuki is on the list. If so, will his abilities include technology? While praising Kurotsuchi Mayuri, Kyoraku Shunsui did not forget to mention Urahara Kazuki. It's so funny, how could that guy be on the list? Kurotsuchi Mayuri snorted disdainfully. Saying this, Kurotsuchi Mayuri knew very well in her heart that Urahara Kazuki would not only be on the list, but also be in a higher position than him. On the ability panel, there is a high probability that the word technology will appear. Urahara Store. Oh my gosh, that guy is actually on the list. It's incredible. Urahara Kazuki lowered his hat and smiled secretly. He performed pretty well in previous battles, so it's understandable that he's on the list. Yoruichi on the side said seriously. In the battle with the Quincy, he first used his powers to deal with Bambietta and Giselle, and then used his invention to rescue the zombie Tōshirō. At first glance, it looks like the MVP in the battle. With such a strong overall ability, ranking 7th is not an exaggeration at all. I didn't expect you to talk to Kurotsuchi Mayuri. I'm so sad. Urahara Kazuki held his hands on his chest, as if his heart was hurting. Looking at Kazuki's nonchalant look, Yoruichi's fist immediately hit him. The throne of Suya Palace. Oh, Kurotsuchi Mayuri? A flash of brightness flashed in Aizen's eyes. Things seem to be getting interesting. Apart from anything else, Aizen still admires Kurotsuchi Mayuri for technology. Although their research directions are different, their original intention as scientists is the same. Captain Nirvana, I want to see how many inventions you have. However, at this time, the video had already started playing on the screen. Hueco Mundo. Ishida Uryu, Abarai Renji and others are midway through the battle with Zail Aporo. Kurotsuchi Mayuri appears suddenly. Captain Nirvana. Why are you here? Renji and Uryu were surprised when they saw Kurotsuchi Mayuri suddenly appear. Following Kurosaki Ichigo to Hueco Mundo is not supported by Seirei. Why does the captain appear here? What, acquaintance, that Quincy? Zail Aporo asked Kurotsuchi Mayuri in surprise. Is it familiar? Let me think about it. Kurotsuchi Mayuri rolled her eyes and scratched her head with her fingertips. Pretending not to recognize them at all, he said, I don't know, that kind of inferior race. Nani, this guy Kurotsuchi Mayuri actually called me an inferior race. Ishida Uryu outside the video was furious when he saw Kurotsuchi Mayuri's appearance. It's okay to say that he doesn't know himself, but he didn't expect it to be disparaging in passing. It's so abominable. Well, Captain Ni has this kind of personality. Renji pursed his lips, not to mention that Kurotsuchi Mayuri said he didn't know Ishida Uryu. Even if he said he didn't know him, it was normal. This hateful guy is really looking down on people. Kurosaki Ichigo also raised his fists. If Kurotsuchi Mayuri said this before, it would be absolutely fine. But now Ichigo knows his identity, and part of his bloodline is that of a Quincy. Kurotsuchi Mayuri scolded Ishida Uryu and him together. He has forgotten that I defeated him. Ishida Uryu frowned, full of displeasure. At the beginning, I used the chaotic puppet and took off the spirit-dispersing gloves, so I defeated Kurotsuchi Mayuri with the holy body. Kurotsuchi Mayuri never mentioned this, returned to the video screen. Except for the rarity of the Quincy, to me, he is useless now and I am too lazy to take care of him. Kurotsuchi Mayuri waved her hand at Ishida Uryu with a mocking tone. "Hole, do you want to insult me even here?" Ishida Uryu became anxious and ran directly to Kurotsuchi Mayuri to complain. However, at this time, Peishui and Dong Dachaka suddenly appeared. "You guys, what are you arguing about when we're not here? Besides, you look like you're covered in wounds, which is not convincing at all." Ichigo, "No, Uryu." Peishui pointed at Yulong and said, "Don't keep teasing me." Yulong complained dissatisfiedly, "You are also covered in injuries." "What are you talking about? I'm different from you. It's not my body that's hurt. Because the fusion with Sero didn't work, I'm already scarred in my heart. Understand it, Yulong. Stop fighting within yourself, it's so ugly." At this time, Zail Aporo, who was watching the show, couldn't help complaining. "Okay, let me ask you again, who are you?" "Forget it, let's not ask." He looked at Kurotsuchi Mayuri with infinite contempt. "Anyway, you are the one who is about to be eliminated by me. There is no use asking for names. Is that so? But if I don't ask for the name, it will be very troublesome," Kurotsuchi Mayuri said. Why, are you an idiot? Do you need to say such a thing? When I put you in a bottle, I can write your name on the bottle? I said just now that asking for your name is in vain, right? However, you are so interested in me, so to show my respect, I will just ask you your name, in order to make you my puppet. Zail Aporo also became interested. Seirei, ha ha ha, this Zail Aporo is so funny. He actually said he wanted to make me into a puppet. Kurotsuchi Mayuri couldn't help but laugh. This was the first time he had seen someone say such a thing. It actually made him laugh. This Zail Aporo is not a copy of Zeon, right? If it is really Zeon, the inner captain may not be so easy to deal with. Kashiwamura Sajin said. Zeon is evenly matched with Zaraki Kenpachi, and it's Zaraki Kenpachi who takes off his blindfold. In terms of combat effectiveness, Kurotsuchi Mayuri is really not necessarily Zeon's opponent. Captain Komamura, if you say that, you are more confident than Zeon. Kurotsuchi Mayuri did not directly answer Kurotsuchi Mayuri's question, but instead threw the question to him. Bai Kunzo, Buffet, looked away. He was definitely no match. Both of them are scientists. I don't know what kind of means they will use to fight. I have some expectations. Kyoraku Shunsui smiled lightly. Suya Palace. Finally, I've waited for this battle. Even if I lose in the end, I still want to see how I lose. Zail Aporo frowned, knowing the result already. He would be killed by Kurotsuchi Mayuri, and his body would be taken back to the Technology Development Bureau and made into a specimen. It's a bit embarrassing to say. Zail Aporo, look at Kurotsuchi Mayuri's appearance, you have already lost to him in terms of image, Yami said with a grin. Kurotsuchi Mayuri's behavior of transforming her appearance seems to make her more of a scientist. The ostentation on the outside is just to cover up the emptiness inside. Zale Aporo said disapprovingly. Return to the video screen. Zale Aporo spreads his wings and targets Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Those wings. Captain Nirvana, Ishida Uryu and Renji on the side suddenly felt nervous after seeing Zale Aporo attack. If the controlled doll copies the controller, then Kurotsuchi Mayuri will be in trouble. Arrancar, Arrancar, Arrancar. Kurotsuchi Mayuri laughed. Hueco Mundo is such a treasure trove. But suddenly, he fell to his knees. His face was distorted, as if he had endured all kinds of pain. Big Mouth dressed in rough clothes. Ha ha ha. Zale Aporo smiled ferociously, and a doll that looked like Kurotsuchi Mayuri appeared in his hand. He flicked it casually, and Kurotsuchi Mayuri, who was kneeling on the ground, screamed. This is Zale Aporo's ability to control the puppet. Captain Nirvana seems to be tortured. Tōshirō frowned slightly outside the video. This kind of ability is not easy to deal with. If it is controlled by the opponent, it will completely lose the dominance. I didn't expect Captain Nirvana to be able to deal with this kind of ability. It's okay. There are Renji and Ishida Uryu next to him. They should help Captain Nirvana get out of trouble. Kashiwamura Sajin said, do I still need them to help me out? Kurotsuchi Mayuri's face suddenly darkened. No matter how good I am, I can't help myself from these two weaklings. Besides, Zale Aporo is 8 blades, some of the trashiest guys in Espada. If you can't solve this little trick, don't be the director of the Technology Development Bureau. Suya Palace. Ha ha ha, you saw it, so what if this guy is the director of the Technology Development Bureau? He was tortured by me and couldn't fight back. Zale Aporo was in a good mood after seeing his highlight moment. Not to mention Kurotsuchi Mayuri, even Zaraki Kenpachi will suffer when he encounters a domination doll. Of course, Theon couldn't hurt Zaraki Kenpachi with the control doll. What does it have to do with Zale Aporo? Kurotsuchi Mayuri is indeed a bit rubbish. Even your trick can't be solved. Yami echoed, how could such a guy be ranked 17th? Return to the video screen. Ah, Kurotsuchi Mayuri roared in pain. His hands lay directly on the ground, seemingly without the ability to resist. It's such a shame. The captain level is no more than this. Zale Aporo placed the puppet in the palm of his hand, then pressed the puppet's head tightly with his right hand, disintegrated its body, and then took out the controller. You will never be able to resist my abilities. Click. Zale Aporo crushes the controller. Kurotsuchi Mayuri spat in pain. Lord Yuli. Nianyameng shouted worriedly. Zale Aporo continued to take out the controller and crushed it again. Ouch. Kurotsuchi Mayuri held her mouth with both hands and moaned in pain. The acting is really impeccable. I didn't expect that even Captain Ni. Renji and Ishida Uryu who were watching the battle were dumbfounded. What a waste. Ishida Uryu cursed outside the video. Why are you so serious when fighting with yourself? Facing Arrancar, he was actually worthy of submission. What a shame. There's no way, Captain Nirvana doesn't know about Zale Aporo's ability, so that's why he was tricked. Renji frowned. They were fighting Zale Aporo just now. He probably also suffered from the domination of the doll. But he didn't expect that Kurotsuchi Mayuri would also be tricked. What a shame, Captain. Zale Aporo's face in the video was full of ridicule. It really doesn't match your terrifying appearance. You be asterisk 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 D. If you do this to me, don't think I will let it go. Kurotsuchi Mayuri still maintained a painful expression and slowly stood up. Afraid of being exposed. Seeing this, Zale Aporo once again crushed the guts of a controller. Thump. Kurotsuchi Mayuri stumbled and fell to the ground. I didn't expect that the captain level would be at this level. It really makes me regretful. Zale Aporo felt a little bored and crushed the controller again. This time, the skin of Kurotsuchi Mayuri's outstretched hand was cut open. I didn't expect that I would be dead in a place like this. Kurotsuchi Mayuri was lying on the ground, with an annoyed expression that made people think he really felt despair. It's over. Zale Aporo crushed the controller, and Kurotsuchi Mayuri's body was instantly penetrated. As blood spurted out, he fell to the ground unconscious. Have they all forgotten his identity as a mad scientist? But suddenly, Kurotsuchi Mayuri appeared in front of him, sticking out his tongue and making a face. Feeling insulted, Zale Aporo immediately became angry and crushed all the controllers in his hands. Don't you think I can make preparations to deal with this kind of opponent? Return to the video screen. Suddenly Tōshirō's eyes lit up. Kurotsuchi Mayuri could really do such a thing. What's going on, Captain Nirvana? You couldn't have been defeated by this guy, right? Sui Feng outside the video felt incredible. Zale Aporo spread his hands and laughed, looking at Kurotsuchi Mayuri who fell to the ground, and sneered. I thought it would be more difficult. Kurotsuchi Mayuri acted to the end and once again showed a painful expression. His eyes were still moving. If it is really this level, it would be too weak. Could it be that Captain Nirvana is acting? Ha 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 ha, it's too simple, it's really boring. Hearing this, Kurotsuchi Mayuri smiled slightly and said no more. Kurotsuchi Mayuri looked at the ignorant Shinigami in front of her and shook her head helplessly. Sailaporo was startled, took a few steps back, and asked in surprise, "Why can't you stand up?" Kurotsuchi Mayuri patted the dust on his body, put his hand to his ear, pretending not to hear. "What did you say?" "What? It's obviously effective." Sailaporo laughed again. Chapter 140, Question. What did Kurotsuchi Mayuri do to Nirvana? Just when Sailaporo was proud, Kurotsuchi Mayuri spoke again. "It's better to stop. I'm tired of seeing your tricks." This sentence immediately made Sailaporo's face darken. "Get up, Nemu." Kurotsuchi Mayuri looked at Nirvana, who was lying on the ground. "Yes." After Ni and Meng nodded, she got up from the ground. "I knew that guy wouldn't be defeated so easily." Ishida Uryu, who was watching the battle from a distance, had a relentless expression on his face. That guy Kurotsuchi Mayuri not only deceived Sailaporo, but also deceived him and Aburai Renji. Of course, this result was also within his expectation. But I didn't expect that Kurotsuchi Mayuri's acting was so realistic. Suya Palace. Ha ha ha, Kurotsuchi Mayuri is actually acting. Look at what Sailaporo is doing. Yami suddenly burst into laughter. It was better to die after being teased like this. Shut up. Sailaporo's face was as dark as charcoal, and the domination puppet he was so proud of had no effect on Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Who can accept it? Kurotsuchi Mayuri's behavior is worthy of his outfit, which is very evil. Lily Knight shook her head, somewhat sympathetic to Sailaporo. After all, he was a colleague and was humiliated so miserably. I couldn't help but want to laugh at it. Ha ha ha, Sailaporo, you are so miserable. Lilynet burst into laughter. Shut up, you guys. Sailaporo shouted angrily. He didn't want to see this situation either. But he couldn't understand why Kurotsuchi Mayuri was not affected by the domination doll. It shouldn't be. Even for a strong person like Zaraki Kenpachi, the controller only becomes harder when controlled by the doll. But when it comes to Kurotsuchi Mayuri, the controller is clearly very fragile. Why was he not harmed at all? You are both scientists, so you can't figure out the other's principles, right? Grimjow said with the slightest hint of ridicule. If he could figure it out, Sailaporo wouldn't be as confused as he is now. There are also 3, 6, and 9 levels of scientists. Maybe Sailaporo belongs to 3, and Kurotsuchi Mayuri belongs to 9. Neutra did not care about Sailaporo's feelings at all. As Arankar, he was teased mercilessly by Shinigami. It was not only Arankar's company that was lost. As a member of Espada, he also seemed to have been insulted. Even if they are divided into 3, 6 or 9 grades, I am the 9th grade and he is the 3rd grade. Sailaporo glanced at Neutra fiercely. Although his domination puppet in the picture was not used, it was not the only move he had. Seirei. Captain Nirvana is too naughty. Sailaporo's ability is ineffective, so forget it. Unexpectedly, he actually put on a show. The grimace in the end is simply too humiliating. Kyoraku Shunsui stroked his bamboo hat with a dark smile on his lips. If it had been someone else, if controlling the puppet had no effect, they would have made it clear directly, and they would definitely not have done so many scenes. The last grimace, I suggest you record it and save it. Jashiro also smiled. I turned a blind eye when I should cooperate with you in the performance. It's a pity that you don't become an actor, Captain Nirvana. Isn't acting just about doing a complete set? Besides this little trick, how could I not have a way to crack it? Kurotsuchi Mayuri shook his head. From the beginning, he realized that he was acting in the video. Kyoraku Shunsui smiled. Give Captain Nirvana a Best Actor award. The video continues to play. To do this, to be honest, it's a bit irritating. Ishida Uryu complained. Speaking of, what's going on? Renji was a little confused. He had already seen Sailaporo's abilities. Why was Kurotsuchi Mayuri getting hit but nothing happened? Damn it. When Sailaporo saw Kurotsuchi Mayuri's appearance, he became furious. He threw the domination doll in his hand to the ground and stepped on it a few more times. Although the controller is still causing damage to Kurotsuchi Mayuri's body, he is not affected at all. Why? Sailaporo roared like a rampaging beast. His internal organs and Achilles tendon were all destroyed. Why didn't he die? What on earth are you capable of? No ability at all. Kurotsuchi Mayuri waved her hand leisurely. It's just that I'm tired of seeing your ability. He pointed at Ishida Uryu and continued. The Quincy over there, I am a very cautious person. After the battle, I will definitely set some kind of mechanism on my opponent. I infected that guy's body with countless surveillance bacteria use. Nani? This Kurotsuchi Mayuri is so insidious. After hearing this sentence, Ishida Uryu outside the video suddenly wanted to curse. Fighting is fighting, what the hell is being infected by bacteria? I didn't notice it at all. He opened his eyes wide and looked confused. If you found out, why would he be called Kurotsuchi Mayuri? Ichigo looked at Ishida Uryu and said, no matter who it is, they will never benefit from fighting Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Ishida Uryu thought he had won the battle, but it was Kurotsuchi Mayuri who gained more. Return to the video screen. The expression on Kurotsuchi Mayuri's face became even more pervert. I have already monitored your battle through those bacteria, so before I came here, I had taken 2 copies of all the Achilles tendons and organs. Hearing this, Zeoloporo was horrified. Impossible, it has not been more than an hour since I demonstrated this ability. How could I do such a thing in such a short time? I'm here just because I can do it. Kurotsuchi Mayuri said with confidence that if it were anyone else, he might not be Zeoloporo's opponent. Wait a minute. Ishida Uryu couldn't help it anymore. What bacteria are you talking about? When did you let it in? Was it during that battle? I haven't heard anything about it. Surveillance is surveillance. How far is surveillance? If you monitor even daily life, then you are snooping into other people's privacy. Get it off right away, otherwise I won't be able to spare you. Listening to Ishida Uryu's chatter, Kurotsuchi Mayuri's eyes rolled again, and then suddenly stopped. Shut up, you crook guy. Hearing this, Ishida Uryu twitched the corner of his mouth. What a sinister way. This was originally what he wanted to say to Kurotsuchi Mayuri, but he was preempted. He felt like he was holding his shit but couldn't find a toilet. You have enough time now, hurry up and take pictures and save them, Omeda said excitedly outside the video. He had been suppressing laughter and almost burst out laughing. Ishida Uryu and Captain Nirvana are happy enemies. Kyoraku Shunsui waved his hand, which looked quite funny. Suya Palace. So that's it, no wonder he can ignore my domination doll. Zeoloporo was so furious that he obtained intelligence by spying on others. It was really an abominable practice. Although he often does this kind of thing, when it comes to others dealing with him, he feels very hateful. What does it mean to have 2 bodies? Yami felt a little confused. Could it be that Kurotsuchi Mayuri has 2 bodies? No need to ask, he is a reformer. Have you ever seen a normal person look like this? Grimjow said with contempt. I see, that means he is crazier than Zeoloporo. Yami said, casting his eyes towards Zeoloporo. Zeoloporo clenched his fists and slammed the table. Damn Kurotsuchi Mayuri, you don't take me seriously at all, do you? Just wait and see. The video screen continues to play. While Kurotsuchi Mayuri and Ishida Uryu were bickering, Zeoloporo had already launched an attack, but this time the target was Nirvana. Huge tentacles wrapped around Ni Yinmeng's body, and her chest was held in midair. Zeoloporo said threateningly, you are really careless for not taking good care of your subordinates. You seem to have made a mistake. Even if you arrest me, you can't do anything. Nirvana spoke to remind Zeoloporo. Shut up, I'm not talking to you. After Zeoloporo roared at Ni Yimeng, he looked at Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Did you listen to me, Captain? I'm talking to you. Really? Kurotsuchi Mayuri stood there, looked at Niranemu quietly, and then pulled out the Zanpakuto from her waist. No matter who he is always making a lot of noise. Bankai. Open your claws, the golden beast will kill Keisaitagarba. A creature with a huge golden baby head appeared. Gray eyes slowly opened. There was a steel hollow circle on its head similar to an angel's halo. There were countless blades under its neck, and it stretched out fat legs like centipedes. Bankai looked like this, and Zeoloporo was so frightened that he froze in place as if he were a stone statue, unable to move even if he wanted to. What is this guy and where does it come from? How come there are still people with Zanpakuto like this? It's really disgusting. Biological Zanpakuto. Buragan outside the video frowned slightly. Zanpakuto in the biology department usually corresponds to a certain animal, but what is this golden monster that looks human but not human? No wonder Zeoloporo was surprised. Even through the screen, the Espadas felt their scalps go numb when they saw such a monster. It looks like a combination of a baby and a bug, probably a Zanpakuto transformed from Kurotsuchi Mayuri. A flash of brightness flashed in Zeoloporo's eyes, which was something a pervert like Kurotsuchi Mayuri could do. Zeoloporo is a pervert, and even perverts think he is pervert. You can imagine how terrifying Kurotsuchi Mayuri is. Return to the video screen. Keisaitagarba Jizo opened his mouth and spat out the Emperor's purple star house. The poisonous mist spread to Zeoloporo's side, and the moment it touched him, the poison spread to his skin. Is this thick smoke a germ? Zeoloporo panicked. Damn it, this kind of thing needs to be detoxified immediately. He clenched his fingers, trying to squeeze out the purifying medicine, but the poison had already spread to his fingers. The pain directly interrupted Zeoloporo's movements. What's going on with this poison? The arms that penetrated deep into the embryo behind the wings were not purified, but instead caused the embryo to explode directly. As long as we have time, we can research this kind of thing right away. Please give me flowers, Zeoloporo roared in pain. But there was no time left for him now. Keisaitagarba Jizo had already opened his mouth and rushed towards him, and Zeoloporo was swallowed into his belly in the next second. Kurotsuchi Mayuri probed her ears and said, I heard it. It seems that it is still going on, the battle of the barbarians. Did you see it, Renji? Looking at Jizo who was still chewing, Ishida Uryu swallowed his saliva. I didn't want to see it at all, but I saw it and was eaten. Renji frowned and complained. Look, you'll know. Yulong quickly turned around. You will know after seeing it, don't say such disgusting things so clearly. You asked me if I saw it, so I answered you. Even so, there is no need to explain it like this. The two were bickering, and suddenly Ishida Uryu discovered that Renji's skin was also contaminated with toxins. Abarai, you are also poisoned. It wasn't until he reminded me twice that I felt anything unusual. Nani, hello. A mouthful of old blood spurted out. He twitched the corner of his mouth and looked at Yulong. Why are you okay? I was poisoned once, so I may have antibodies, Yulong said seriously. Despicable, there is still such a thing. Despicable guy, I almost died. Let's not talk about it yet. Kurotsuchi Mayuri, get the antidote quickly. Uryu yelled at Kurotsuchi Mayuri, but the next second, his skin was infected with toxins, and a mouthful of old blood spurted out. This world. Ishida Uryu. Abarai Renji. Ha 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 ha, you both made me laugh so hard. Ichigo laughed so hard that his stomach hurt, as if he had been poisoned once and developed antibodies. The result is still poisoning. Kurotsuchi Mayuri and Bankai are really powerful, but while they hurt the enemy, they will also affect their teammates, Sato said. Ichigo laughed and said, yeah, but that's the kind of person Kurotsuchi Mayuri is. He doesn't care about his teammates. Seirei. Antibodies? They don't exist. Kurotsuchi Mayuri looked at Ishida Uryu's confident look in the video and instantly laughed. If the poison that kills Keisaitogarba can produce antibodies after being exposed to it once, wouldn't it be a useless ability? Zael Aporo was eaten. The picture is indeed a bit cruel. Rangaku frowned slightly, seeing such a scene. It's nothing to eat. What's important is that Keisaitogarba is still chewing it in his mouth. It's really unacceptable. Kira also shook her head. Returned to the video screen. Kurotsuchi Mayuri looked at the noisy Ishida Uryu and Renji with a funny expression. What are you talking about casually? Isn't it common sense to change the poison formula again and again? You guy, don't get excited, the poison will act faster. Renji stopped Uryu, who was about to get angry. Once you have developed antibodies, you must resolutely avoid this kind of thing from happening, which is what you are capable of. Kurotsuchi Mayuri smiled lightly. I'm very sorry, Yuri-sama, could you please unlock this thing? Nirvana is still entangled in the tentacles. When Keisaitogarba devoured Zael Aporo, he specially left a tentacle to prevent Nirvana from being swallowed as well. But at this time, Nianyameng began to scream. Then a cloud of purple square smoke was spit out from the mouth, and things like cells were constantly dividing in it. Do you think you're going to kill me? Let me tell you. The most important and proud ability of this evil concubine is called Conception Notification, which is the ability to resurrect me through enemies. Zael Aporo was almost crazy. He pointed at Kurotsuchi Mayuri. There is no such end as death in front of me. Even if you can kill me, I will be reborn before complete death. He will not let his existence be bound by death. Do you understand, Kurotsuchi Mayuri, that through such infinite rebirths, I can become a phoenix known as the Phoenix? When I am about to die, I will naturally fall into the fire and be reincarnated into a new one in the flames. Soon, Zael Aporo grew from an embryo to its original shape, but it only took a dozen seconds. In order to resurrect, Zael Aporo reconstructed the spirit sun. During the reconstruction process, in order to capture all the enemy's spirit suns, the death of his mother's body was the moment of his birth. Lord Yuli, I'm sorry for the mixed dream breathing factory. The reborn Zael Aporo is still covered in mucus and looks disgusting. It is not about transcending death, but making death a part of the cycle of life. Life. Seeing this, Kurotsuchi Mayuri froze in place. Do you understand, the so-called immortality and the so-called perfection are like this. Zael Aporo's voice came out, invading the enemy's interior and sucking the spirit seeds from the inside. No, to be precise, it's called supplementation. Okay, let's start again by introducing yourself, Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Zael Aporo did not realize the seriousness of the matter at all. Facing Zael Aporo's eloquent talk, Kurotsuchi Mayuri did not make any reaction, but slowly walked towards the unconscious Nirvana. At this time, the tentacles let go, Nirvana lost consciousness and fell to the ground. The one who dies and regenerates easily like me is the perfect life. Think carefully, if you can't kill me, you will never win. Chapter 141. Panita, the Soul King's left hand, is a pair with Jashiro? Are you sad to see your important lieutenant dying? I didn't expect you to be really sensitive. Give up. That guy won't live long. Zael Aporo said. By the way, if you want to classify it, it should be broken cocoon. Butterfly's cocoon. However, Kurotsuchi Mayuri grinned and said, it's really interesting. It's such an amazing ability that made me interested in you, and then, is this all you have? Zael Aporo was stunned and didn't understand what Kurotsuchi Mayuri meant. You have said that you are a perfect being, so what abilities are there that are useless? Kurotsuchi Mayuri waved her hand and said with great anticipation. What is that guy doing? Ishida Uryu, who was watching the battle, wanted to curse. Shouldn't he take advantage of the opponent's rebirth to kill him at this time? Why are you still thinking about letting him continue to use his abilities? What's wrong? Why are you looking so serious? If you tell me, you won't lose a piece of meat. A sarcastic smile appeared on Kurotsuchi Mayuri's lips. Don't be so stingy, show me, be good. Seirei. Captain Nirvana, can you stop being so naughty? Zael Aporo is going to be mad at you. Tōshirō smiled and shook his head. Kurotsuchi Mayuri looks so mean, which is really unpleasant to watch. If it were put on yourself, I would probably be able to hit someone long ago. Isn't it disrespectful to say something like naughty to Master Yuri? Ni Yinmu frowned slightly, saying that Kurotsuchi Mayuri is also Tōshiro's senior. This is a bit too much. Yinmeng, you have no business speaking. Kurotsuchi Mayuri turned to look at Ninmu, with a hint of scolding in her tone. After all, Tōshirō is also the subject of his future research. Zombie Tōshirō is so fun to study. That's not necessary, Captain Nirvana. It's really because I spoke too inappropriately. Seeing Ni Yinmeng being scolded, he apologized quickly. Yeah, Captain Hitsugaya is right. Captain Nirvana is really funny. Kiraku Shunsui relaxed the atmosphere and said, 7, 8, 7, and showed a faint smile. Return to the video screen. Zael Aporo raised his finger, and the Kaosaidagarba in front of him roared in pain and immediately fell to the ground. Ha 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 ha. Do you think it will be normal after eating my DK? He was very proud and sneered. If my body is eaten, it will melt and invade the nerves. Although I don't know the structure of your Zanpakuto, as long as you control the motor center, it has nothing to do with the structure. Even if it is solved, I will have it under my control. Curse yourself. Bankai is a biological structure. As long as you control Kaosaidagarba, you can take control of the situation. But at this moment, Kaosaidagarba's whole body swelled up, and with a bang, it turned into nothing. Really, if the prop dares to resist its owner, do you think it will be okay? Kurotsuchi Mayuri emerged from the smoke, Zanpakuto in hand. The fragments of Jizo turned into red light and converged on Zanpakuto. I have already set this contingency to, if it dares to bite me, let it destroy itself. It seems that you are strong enough. Let me tell you later, do you want to be the experimental subject of my new drug? When Kurotsuchi Mayuri said these words, Zael Aporo immediately made a parrying action. No need to put on that posture, the medicine is already in your body. At the same time, Kurotsuchi Mayuri's face began to distort and shake. Even the sound became very strange. What's wrong, that voice just now? Zael Aporo noticed something unusual, and his expression suddenly tightened. I have been storing a lot of drugs in Yinmeng's body. If I want to eat Yinmeng or invade her body, it will be like I drugged her. Kurotsuchi Mayuri explains. Suya Palace. Everything is lost, Zael Aporo. Yami looked at Zael Aporo with contempt. It's really rare to see him in such a panic. It was indeed crushed from all sides. Grimjow crossed his arms, as if everything was expected. Damn it, Zanpakuto actually has such a setting? Zael Aporo's mouth twitched sharply, he really didn't consider this. Moreover, there are medicines hidden in Ni Yinmeng's body. Can you believe this kind of operation? Seeing such a cunning Kurotsuchi Mayuri, Zael Aporo seemed to understand why he lost. He has already thought of the results of various battles, but he is not in an invincible position. It's really uncomfortable to fight with this kind of person, Haribel understood. No wonder it ranks 17th, technology is so important. Return to the video screen. What kind of medicine is it? Hearing Kurotsuchi Mayuri say that he had been hit by a medicine, Zael Aporo suddenly panicked and asked hesitantly. How should I put it? It should be called Superman. Saying that, Kurotsuchi Mayuri took out a blue bottle. In the competition between masters, some people can see the stagnation of the sword, which is the extension of the feeling of time. If the feeling is exerted to the ultimate, it will cause different phenomena. The superhuman drug is a drug that can forcefully stimulate this phenomenon. In other words, a drug that makes it easy for anyone to feel superhuman. How is this going? Zael Aporo stared and stood there in a daze, his body even trembling a little. His words were too slow to be heard. Even the opponent's movements were as slow as if they were still. You should be able to understand, Espada, if you use this medicine, even a child can feel as if he is standing still in front of him. Having become a Superman, you must be impatient with the actions of an ordinary person like me. Kurotsuchi Mayuri raised Zanpakuto and pressed it against Zael Aporo's forehead. This sword is immovable. This is the power of Superman medicine. The sharpening of the master's senses can amplify the effect several times, tens of thousands, or even trillions of times the moment the sword strikes. Seirei, Captain Nirvana, your superhuman medicine is too powerful. Shu Bing's eyes widened. It can slow down people's senses by such a multiple. It's a miracle medicine. How can we not prepare something good to deal with this kind of enemy? Jin Yuli showed a cold smile. Although video is the future, he has already produced research results on superhuman medicine. A drop of superhuman medicine needs to be diluted 250,000 times to maintain the same senses as now. Judging from Zael Aporo's appearance, it seems to be pure syrup. Kurotsuchi Mayuri waved his hand. For him now, 1 second is like 100 years. As expected of Captain Nirvana, 1 second feels like 100 years. This is simply endless torture. Kira couldn't help but sigh. This is simply more painful than falling into the abyss. Invisible Empire. Is there such a medicine? Masko's eyes widened. He seemed to have learned a lot. Not to mention slowing down the senses 1,000 times, even 1,000 times is unacceptable. Masko, who originally relied on strength, would not be able to capture the opponent's movements if he took the Superman drug. Let alone Masuko, even if Habach comes, it will be in vain. Isn't this Kurotsuchi Mayuri recognized by His Majesty as a special combat force? Asano was very surprised. Have you forgotten that there is another Urahara Kazuki? That guy should have more tricks than Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Robert frowned. A Kurotsuchi Mayuri was so difficult to deal with. Urahara Kazuki, who was recognized by Yuhabach as a special combat power, means, wouldn't there be no solution? Wonderful, wonderful. Bambietta laughed out loud, as she had seen a Shinigami with outstanding abilities besides using Zanpakuto. While gaining knowledge, it is also a good thing for them to attack Soul Society in the future. The video continues. Kurotsuchi Mayuri took out Zanpakuto again. The way this sword approaches you, what you see as a superhuman being is the slow motion of hundreds of years. It's such a beautiful second, and compared to the superhuman feeling, the physical reaction has not reached the superhuman level. It is extremely slow. The physical senses cannot keep up with the movements captured by the keen senses. He used Zaelaporo's pierced palm to hide. Even if you say this, how long will it take for you to hear what I say? Forget it, don't worry, just enjoy it from the moment my knife pierces your heart through 100 years until the dripping blood turns to dust. Kurotsuchi Mayuri smiled sinisterly, revealing 2 rows of golden teeth. Okay, then 100 years later, Guion. With Zanpakuto pierced through the chest, Zaelaporo didn't know how many years or decades had passed. No, longer than that. In short, the passage of time is endless. When will this knife penetrate my heart? Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. Now he just wants to die quickly without suffering such torture. Perfect life. There can be no perfect thing in the world. It's just like what the priest said, but that's the truth. Because ordinary people yearn for perfection and constantly pursue it. But, what's the point of perfection? Kurotsuchi Mayuri shook her head. No, it doesn't make any sense. I hate perfection. If it's perfect, there's nothing better. There is no room for creation anymore, so there is no room for wisdom and talent. Understand, for us scientists, perfection equals despair. It can be better than anything that exists now, but it is definitely not perfect. Scientists have to be creatures that are troubled by this contradictory theory and then find pleasure in it. Kurotsuchi Mayuri held the hilt of Zanpakuto's sword. When you're raving about perfection, you are destined to lose to me. Click. The blade was broken directly by Kurotsuchi Mayuri, and he walked towards Nirvana. Is it okay if Zanpakuto is broken? Ishida Uryu asked worriedly. It's not broken, it was broken by me. Kurotsuchi Mayuri explains. A broken blade in the Shikai state can be repaired, but a broken blade after Bankai cannot be restored. Kurotsuchi Mayuri can definitely recreate a Zanpakuto. Anyone who dares to resist him will be punished by breaking it once. After looking left and right for a stone, Kurotsuchi Mayuri called out Nemu. Come here, Nemu, come here. However, Ni Yinmeng had completely lost consciousness and fell to the ground without responding at all. Seeing this, Kurotsuchi Mayuri put on an impatient expression and said, Troublemaker. He walked to Ni Yinmeng's side and squatted down. What was he doing there? Ishida Uryu and Renji looked curious, but suddenly Kurotsuchi Mayuri's movement made their company suddenly turn red. I quickly covered my eyes, but I was just pretending. My fingers leaked out of the gap, and I could still see clearly. Ni Yinmeng groaned. Soon, she was as good as before, and her delicate face was extremely red. Seirei. All Shinigami's faces turned red. Why is there still such a treatment? Can it really be broadcast? Captain Nene, are you sure this is a healing action? Rangaku covered Tōshiro's eyes and said twitchingly. Isn't it the infusion of spirit? Soul? Kurotsuchi Mayuri remained calm and didn't seem to have any emotional changes. What? Don't you understand this kind of action? He said expressionlessly. Not to mention Rangaku who doesn't understand, even all the Shinigami present don't understand either. Ahem, we really can't broadcast it. Kyoraku Shunsui put his fist on his lips and coughed twice. Although there is only Kurotsuchi Mayuri's back in the picture, everyone can guess what he is doing. Why can't it be broadcast? Kurotsuchi Mayuri closed his eyes and shook his head. It's just you looking at it with dirty eyes. This lecture made everyone present feel guilty. This world. If you don't understand, just ask, is Kurotsuchi Mayuri making a baby? Inoue Orihime looked at Kurosaki Ichigo eagerly and said. Of course not. Kurotsuchi Mayuri is recharging the Nirvana dream and regaining life. Although her behavior is a bit unconventional, it is definitely not what you imagined. Kurosaki Ichigo suddenly blushed and explained quickly. What a pity. Only part of the video was played. Renji shook his head. Anyway, he saw the whole process in the video, so it's not a loss. But this time. Open black lens bracket Kurotsuchi Mayuri's Zaelaporo. Victory, close black lens bracket. The result of this battle was announced on the big screen. The battle between 2 scientists was won by Kurotsuchi Mayuri. The screen then changes. New World City battlefield. A strange man with a stooped body wearing a cape of the Knights of the Star Cross stood in the middle of the hall. Under the cape, only 2 shining golden eyes could be seen on the dark face. He is Panita Pikaja, the left hand of the Soul King and one of the bodyguards of Yuhabach. Who is that? Zaraki Kenpachi was very surprised when he looked at such a strange guy. Are you asking a question, or are you talking to yourself? Kurotsuchi Mayuri glanced at Kenpachi and said, if you are talking to yourself, I will ignore it. That being said, Kurotsuchi Mayuri didn't think there would be such idiots in Team 13 who would ask each other what they saw for the first time. So it's natural to be ignored. Zaraki Kenpachi didn't care so much and already held Nozarashi. Anyway, let's give him a knife first. Suddenly, Kurotsuchi Mayuri noticed the clue and shouted quickly, Zaraki, wait. Kenpachi also noticed something was wrong, and his forward movement suddenly stopped, and he and Panita refuted the distance. But at this time, he was already injured. Zaraki, are you okay? It's okay, I just have an arm to accompany me, Kenpachi said. His arm was twisted and bleeding. Seirei, what is that thing? Is it also a member of the Knights of the Star Cross? Madarei Mikaku frowned instantly, looking at Zaraki Kenpachi's injury. He couldn't help but feel worried. 3.4. The body doesn't look like a normal person, and the ability looks very special. Kusajishi Yachiru stared at Kenpachi and sighed. Aegean, next time you face such a strange opponent, you should still. It's better to be more steady. Although Yachiru understands Kenpachi's mood, he is often the one who suffers if he is too reckless. Just like Kenpachi in the picture, he had no idea what was happening and his arm was injured. If it had been anyone else, they might have been killed directly. It doesn't seem like an ordinary Knights of the Star Cross. It's even many times stronger than Quincy's like Masco and Ace Knot. Tōshirō frowned, usually daring to appear in this way. It's not just a joke, it's a very powerful enemy. Judging from Kenpachi's injuries, this monster is the latter. If you stand in front of Captain Nirvana and Captain Zaraki, you won't be able to believe that he is not a strong man. Kira said, this person is even difficult to kill with a character like Gerald. Yeah, just leave this kind of opponent to me. Captain Zaraki, you better not get involved. Kurotsuchi Mayuri suddenly became interested. How exciting it would be if this kind of creature became the subject of research. Zaraki Kenpachi chuckled. Of course he didn't want to let go of such an opponent, but judging from this person's inexplicable ability, it seemed that Kurotsuchi Mayuri was easier to deal with. Invisible Empire. Isn't that Panita Pikaja? Masco looked at Panita Pikaja sitting in the corner and said with some surprise. He wants to stop Zaraki Kenpachi and Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Two people. Panita had difficulty speaking, and Masco didn't get the meaning of his answer. Only two opponents? Gerald suddenly smiled sinisterly. He was also a member of the guards, and his heart ability was far greater than that of Panita, who was on the left arm of the Soul King. But back then he had three opponents, Obai and Bankai's Kenpachi. Calculated according to rankings, Kurotsuchi Mayuri and Kenpachi seemed to be on par with the trio. Chapter 142. Zaraki was stabbed in the back. Nibao is the villain. Please subscribe. It seems easier to deal with opponents like Byakuya Kuchiki and Hitsugaya Tōshirō. Robert pushed up his glasses and continued. Guys like Kurotsuchi Mayuri who don't know how many tricks they have at their disposal are difficult characters to deal with. Everyone present agreed with this statement. Just like the Superman drug just now, it was shocking enough. If Panita is really infected by the medicine, he must tell where he is. However, although the Superman medicine is very powerful, it needs to be injected into the opponent's body. As long as precautions are in place, it is basically impossible to hit. Panita blinked and made an indistinguishable sound. Everyone did not understand, and only Lijabalo understood what Panita meant. He relayed. Panita said that he does not take such an opponent seriously at all. Although Kurotsuchi Mayuri's method is quite powerful, it also requires specific conditions to be triggered. We believe him too. Masco scratched his head and said excitedly, I would like to see what other methods that guy Kurotsuchi Mayuri has, but his methods are of no use to Panita. Return to the video screen. Zaraki Kenpachi was indeed injured, and the attack just now also damaged Panita's head. He smiled and said to Kurotsuchi Mayuri, but in exchange, I took off that thing's head. Kai. Panita's head split open, and blood came out instantly. How could the personal guards be at this level? Suddenly Panita's head began to swell and became like a meatball, with 5 bulges holding up his robe. What's going on? Zaraki Kenpachi was a little confused and had no idea what was happening. Are the ever-expanding objects bringing nightmares or despair? Are you asking a question or talking to yourself? Kurotsuchi Mayuri murmured again. Kenpachi didn't expect that the other party's head would become so big. What on earth is this? The changes in Panita are beyond Kenpachi's imagination. There are unknown changes in the battle. Why? Kurotsuchi Mayuri also frowned and thought, this form is not conducive to fighting at all. What a terrifying guy. What qualifications do you have to speak against him? Zaraki Kenpachi complained, in terms of horror pervert, who can compare with Kurotsuchi Mayuri. 14 Madarei Mikaku, who was watching the battle from a distance, was anxious. Kanai, we don't even have a chance to take action. Yumachika scolded, idiot, wouldn't it be better not to take action? In fact, can the two chief officers participate in a battle of this level? If you act randomly, you will definitely be scolded by Zaraki Kenpachi. Niimeng on the side nodded. I think so too. It's really rare for you to take the initiative to explain something about yourself. Akaku looked at Ni and Meng in surprise. Is that so? No action is allowed until he issues the summons, the order of Lord Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Nianimu said calmly that she did not think the enemy could pose any threat to Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Several people looked at the backs of their respective captains with trusting eyes. Akaku curled his lips. What are you talking about? Captain Zaraki is the same. Why does this guy's shape look so much like an arm? Rangaku outside the video frowned, feeling a little familiar. Palm? Toshiro's eyes widened, and then he suddenly said, it really looks like a palm. No wonder this guy is not in the form of a normal person. It turns out to be a palm. With a powerful and weird appearance, is he the left arm of the Spirit King? Kyoraku Shunsui lowered his hat, his face full of worry. If Benita is the left arm of the Soul King as he thinks, then Zaraki Kenpachi and Kurotsuchi Mayuri will be in danger. Jashiro's Soul King's right arm can directly connect to the Soul King Palace above from the Seireii below, and connect to the dead Soul King to maintain the stability of the three realms. Based on this alone, Benita's power is immeasurable. So, Captain Jashiro, do you know this person? Omeda looked at Jashiro expectantly. Of course I don't know each other. The corner of Jashiro's mouth twitched. One is not the left arm, the other is the right arm. The two of them know each other, okay? Return to the video screen. Suddenly, the wound on Zaraki Kenpachi's arm changed. He was shocked, and his arms began to twist like twists. The bones are about to shatter. What? The arm has been broken and twisted several times automatically. Yumachika and Akaku don't know what happened. At the same time, his arm was slashing at Zaraki Kenpachi himself uncontrollably. Without any hesitation, he grabbed his right arm and pulled hard, causing the arm to fall directly from his shoulder. Pressing his foot on the still-moving arm, Kenpachi took back the Zanpakuto. Even so, the arm continued to twist, turning into a blood mass in the blink of an eye. Invisible Empire. As expected of Zaraki Kenpachi, he is so cruel to himself. A smile appeared on Bambietta's lips. If she hadn't made a decisive decision, it would have been more than just her arm that was injured. With a broken arm, let's see how this guy can still kill people. Gerald was in a happy mood. Your power, which can cut me into giants, no longer exists. Seireii. The torn arm can still twist continuously. This guy's ability is too perverted. Madarei Mikaku couldn't help but worry about Zaraki Kenpachi's condition. It seems to be able to control something and constantly change its shape. Kurotsuchi Mayuri analyzed. It can be seen from Zaraki Kenpachi's broken arm. The initial twisting of the arm not only increased the injury, but also prepared to attack Kenpachi, indicating that he was under control. In the end, it turned into a blood mass and exploded, which confirmed this idea. This is a bit difficult to deal with. Tōshirō frowned. The abilities exposed by the Knights of the Star Cross, except for Gerald and the lethal Yaskin who could not die at the beginning, although the other abilities were difficult to deal with, there were ways to deal with them. But now there's another monster that can twist things, and it's really impossible to fight. The video screen continues to play. Oh my, you are really capable of breaking off your arm without hesitation. Your judgment is quite good. You are worthy of being Captain Zaraki. Kurotsuchi Mayuri praised her unabashedly, smiling and showing 2 rows of big gold teeth. If you had hesitated for a moment, your whole body would have turned into a big ball of flesh with protruding veins. Are you praising me or mocking me? This sentence made Kenpachi very unhappy and asked. Which one do you think it is? That doesn't matter. What exactly is this guy's ability? Kenpachi didn't pursue it, but instead asked Kurotsuchi Mayuri, who was more experienced with this weird ability. It's still the same. It's hard to tell whether he's talking to himself or asking questions. Kurotsuchi Mayuri was a little impatient. It doesn't matter which one it is, but even I don't know his ability. As far as the current situation is concerned, we can only say that we can't get close to him. Kurotsuchi Mayuri made the suggestion intentionally, thinking that he knew Kenpachi. As soon as he said this, Kenpachi would definitely get involved. This time Kenpachi was confused. If you can't get close, how can you cut it? Nemu, come here and bandage his arm to stop the bleeding. Kurotsuchi Mayuri asked Nemu to come over for treatment. Stop joking. How can you kill him if you don't get close to him? It's not just killing that is called fighting. I'm thinking about how to deal with it without getting close to him. Kurotsuchi Mayuri frowned. But how can Zaraki Kenpachi endure such a beastly character? After Niameng finished bandaging the wound, he immediately struck it with a knife. I'm really wary of dealing with Kurotsuchi Mayuri, but if Zaraki Kenpachi is here, I can feel a lot more relaxed. Panita muttered outside the video. The impulsive Kenpachi will definitely pay the price. In the ears of others, his words were like a child learning to speak, unable to hear or understand clearly. Reckless, Zaraki Kenpachi, I'll let you see right away what it means to be impulsive and the devil. Lizabaro chuckled, paraphrasing Panita's words. I understand, Panita, we understand what you said this time. Yaskin waved his hand and said. Panita nodded wildly in his seat excitedly. Gerald couldn't help but laugh. Do you really understand? Return to the video screen. Even if it's an unknown force, I just need to split him in half before its power reaches me. Zaraki Kenpachi said as he ran. Kurotsuchi Mayuri was speechless, so she had to pull out her Zanpakuto, ready to support at any time. At this time, Zaraki Kenpachi had already teleported to Panita's side, and Nozarashi chopped off the latter's head again. It's said to be the head, but it's actually just the bulging part in the middle. The blade did cut in a little, but the next second, Zaraki Kenpachi's knees suffered twisting pain. This is the consequences of being reckless. However, at this moment, Zanpakuto pierced Zaraki Kenpachi's body. It wasn't the Quincy who did it. If you look closely, the person who passed through Kenpachi's chest turned out to be Jizo. Kurotsuchi Mayuri stabbed it with her own hands. Seirei. Kurotsuchi Mayuri, what do you want to do? Seeing this scene, Zaraki Kenpachi instantly became angry. Go forward and attack the enemy by yourself. It's okay if you, Kurotsuchi Mayuri, don't help. He stabbed me in the back? Are you an undercover Quincy? Captain Nirvana, do you want to kill Captain Zaraki? Madarei Makaku and the officers of the 11th Division were all staring at Kurotsuchi Mayuri angrily. Just their eyes were about to eat him. Oh my god, you really don't understand my good intentions. I treat my good intentions like a donkey heart and lungs. Kurotsuchi Mayuri spread his hands and shook his head, only half of what he said. Calm down, Aegean. At this time, Yachiru grabbed Kenpachi by the corner, jumped up and bit the bald head of Kenpachi. Calm down. A sword was injured by the opponent's ability in the video. Captain Nirvana saved a sword. It seems that there are still smart people in the 11th Division, Kurotsuchi Mayuri said arrogantly. After hearing Yachiru's words, the officers of Division 11 turned around and thought, this is indeed the case. The opponent's ability is weird. If Zaraki Kenpachi hurts his legs, it will definitely be like his arms, twisting or even spreading to the whole body. You can't cut off both legs, right? That would make it even harder to fight. Captain Nirvana is definitely not a simple backstab of Captain Zaraki. He must have thought of some way to deal with the enemy. Kiraku Shunsui also said. Return to the video screen. Zaraki Kenpachi spit out a mouthful of blood. Kurotsuchi Mayuri, you guy. He was a little unhappy. HMPH. Sure enough, it only blocked the limbs, but other parts would still be broken. Kurotsuchi Mayuri did not explain and directly activated the ability. Kill KSI Dagarba. I'm afraid of the 4th degree. One of Jizo's eyes was stabbed, and it immediately made a terrifying and harsh sound. Please cover your ears. If you listen for 4 seconds, your body will be paralyzed. Nianmu quickly reminded Yumachika and Akaku. Kenpachi couldn't move, so he became miserable and his body was paralyzed. After all this, Kurotsuchi Mayuri put away the knife handsomely. Fortunately, the anesthesia has taken effect, and your arm strength can still be used. If you turned into a meat dumpling here, I would be very troubled. Kurotsuchi Mayuri looked at Panita with a scornful smile. Besides, once the anesthesia takes effect, the true nature of your power will naturally be revealed. To sum it up in one sentence, it is, nerve. You bury your nerves into the enemy's body and forcibly control the enemy's actions. I have already anticipated this. I heard that Quincy can inject spirit seeds into their blood vessels and convert them into their own power. If this is the case, it is not surprising that there are people who use spirit seeds to control other things in the body. Captain Nirvana is really smart. He was able to think of this through the static blood suit. It's really scary. Tōshirō outside the video couldn't help but admire him. No matter what, I never thought that Panita caused damage by controlling the nerves. Isn't this normal reasoning? Kurotsuchi Mayuri smiled softly, as if he was enjoying the moment when others praised him. Jashiro nodded in admiration. Looking at the Quincy's panic, Captain Nirvana seems to have guessed it right. Zaraki, you are too reckless. If it weren't for Captain Nirvana, your voice would probably have changed to a pulp. Byakuya Kuchiki said with a little sarcasm. Shout, if he hadn't stopped me, I could have dragged that Quincy into hell even with my legs. Zaraki Kenpachi said disapprovingly. Byakuya Kuchiki shook his head as if he hated iron. The whole body is soft, only the mouth is hard, invisible empire. Panita was restless. He didn't expect that his ability would be analyzed. Even after a battle, it is inevitable that the ability will be exposed, but Kurotsuchi Mayuri analyzed that in such a short period of time, it can cause damage by controlling nerves. Isn't it too scary? Kurotsuchi Mayuri should be a means of special combat power, right? Light Odo has become jealous of Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Zanpakuto can actually emit sound waves that paralyze the entire body. The most outrageous thing is that it only takes 4 seconds of listening to trigger it. If Kurotsuchi Mayuri hadn't been here, Zaraki Kenpachi would have died long ago. And he was killed instantly. Is there a big difference between Zaraki Kenpachi's strength and Panita's? No, it is due to personality, but it has formed restraint. Since your majesty did not put Kurotsuchi Mayuri into special combat force, it means that Urahara Kazuki is more terrifying than him. Yasuken waved his hand. If you can directly turn Yoruichi into the cat god of war, can you still question his ability? Return to the video screen. The process is not important. Now that I know the true nature of your power, I won't be afraid of you anymore. Kurotsuchi Mayuri smiled wildly. Hearing this, Panita panicked. He was panicking and hating, and his eyes flashed with lightning-like lines, just like a normal person's bloodshot eyes. He unleashed his nerves to attack again. But Kurotsuchi Mayuri waved her arm and sprinkled the golden liquid, directly rebounding the nerves. "Ah!" Ponyta screamed. "Is it painful?" Kurotsuchi Mayuri grinned. "Have you experienced the pain of exposed nerves? Your ability is very interesting, just let me enjoy it slowly, because I have a lot of medicines that can act on the nerves." This look scared Ponyta so much that she cowered in place like a child. "Good guy, you are the evil villain." At this time, Zaraki Kenpachi woke up and stared at Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Kurotsuchi Mayuri quickly apologized and smiled. "I will stab you just for your sake. There is no other way, so don't look at me with that angry look." Kenpachi was still in a state of paralysis, but his eyes moved a bit. "Oh, the eyes can still move. It seems that the name of the monster is not unfounded. It seems that the next time it stabs you, it is necessary to increase the paralysis of Jizo Jizo." Kurotsuchi Mayuri murmured to herself. "Oh my, not only the enemy's ability, but also the improvements that can be made in Jizo Jizo have been discovered. I can only express my gratitude to you." Hearing this, Akaku became angry and actually used his captain as a gunman? However, Yumachika understood what Kurotsuchi Mayuri was thinking. He was interested in seeing the enemy's ability and wanted to deal with it alone, so he knocked down Zaraki Kenpachi. "Your captain is still the same." Yumachika looked at Nienmu. "Yes, I think so too," Ni and Meng suddenly said. "What do you mean?" Nemu was silent for a moment. "Nothing. Just the literal meaning." Chapter 143, The Great Inventor. Technology is all about manipulation. Please subscribe. At this time, Kurotsuchi Mayuri had an excited look on her face, looked at Ponyta, and stretched out her hand, as if sending an invitation. Then, "A captain of my beloved Gode 13 team paid a heavy price so that I could grasp the truth about your ability and obtain valuable information. Do you understand what this means? Wonderful de Quincy." Kurotsuchi Mayuri looked at the indifferent Ponyta in front and continued. "No reaction, then I will continue. To sum it up in one sentence, what I want to say is that I am almost moved to tears by this sacrifice. Precious victories are built on precious sacrifices. Seirei, Captain Ni, isn't it a bit unkind to do this?" Madarame Akaku showed the malicious look he had before. It turns out that the reason why Kurotsuchi Mayuri did this was to let Zaraki Kenpachi test his opponent's ability. I'm afraid that Kurotsuchi Mayuri said he wanted to stay away from the Quincy, and he was the one who deliberately provoked Zaraki Kenpachi. What's the point of being unkind? I'm just confirming my own thoughts. Captain Zaraki has such a temper that I can't stop him even if I want to, don't you think so? Kurotsuchi Mayuri smiled sinisterly. This sentence is true. Even if Kurotsuchi Mayuri didn't say stay away from Ponyta, Zaraki Kenpachi would rush over without any worries. Fortunately, Captain Zaraki's life is not in danger. According to his physique, the broken arm should be able to recover as before, Tōshirō said calmly. Both captains are extremes. It is really difficult to say who is wrong and who is right. Return to the video screen. All in all, I respect your touching sacrifice, so please give me that body as experimental material for research. Kurotsuchi Mayuri's smile becomes even more pervert. Ponyta panicked instantly and was chirping on the spot. Although he couldn't understand what he was expressing, he could feel that at this moment, he was panicking. "Oh my, what? Don't you accept it? You really seem like an old stubborn man who doesn't understand romance." Click. Suddenly, Ponyta's clothes tore apart. A huge arm appeared in Kurotsuchi Mayuri's eyes. His pupils suddenly shrank. This is... If you look closely, you will see that the fingertips of this arm are connected with iron chains, and there is an eye with double pupils in the middle. What is it? Yumachika and the others were stunned on the spot, unable to believe what they were seeing. How come there are still people who have turned into hands? However, Kurotsuchi Mayuri explained this question, and he laughed evilly. So it's the left arm of the Soul King? Seirei. As expected, it's the Soul King's left arm. I'd say it looks a lot like an arm. Rangaku swallowed secretly. Jashiro's right arm is just an arm made of black liquid, but the Quincy in the picture actually transformed into an arm. Looks more powerful than Captain Jashiro, Kira said bluntly. If Tōshirō is the carrier, then Ponyta is the arm itself. This is also the reason why Jashiro ranks lower. Captain Ni, are you this guy's opponent? Kiraku Shunsui looked at Kurotsuchi Mayuri with some worry, not because he didn't believe in Kurotsuchi Mayuri's strength. It can be seen from the way that Kurotsuchi Mayuri used potions to deflect the Quincy's nerve attack. Kurotsuchi Mayuri has many methods, but the Soul King's arm is not limited to this ability. Kurotsuchi Mayuri shook his head slightly, with a smile on his face. It's hard to say, anyway, I won't lose so ugly. Kurotsuchi Mayuri puts the steps down in advance without bragging and guaranteeing. He knew what level the enemy was. Give me the antidote quickly, I can help. Zaraki Kenpachi suddenly became excited. His opponent was the Soul King's arm. What a powerful opponent. Just stay there honestly. If you keep fighting, I won't be able to save you. Kurotsuchi Mayuri grinned. Zaraki Kenpachi's contribution was enough. Yes, Aiken, the next battle will be left to Captain Nirvana. Kusajishi Yachiru also said that if Kenpachi was healthy, she would encourage Kenpachi to fight, but the situation is different now. Return to the video screen. Pineda threw out his robe, and countless muscles and nerves emerged from the broken part of the Soul King's arm, and the arm continued to grow in size. It soon became as long as a tall building. This monster is the left arm of the Soul King? Madarame Makaku was shocked by the sight in front of him. Does the Soul King have such a huge arm? You haven't seen the Spirit King at all. How can you tell whether there is one or not? Kurotsuchi Mayuri glanced at Madarame Makaku and continued. The Ryotsu is indeed similar to the Ryotsu of Tōshirō that was collected before. Since Tōshirō can become the right arm of the Soul King through a contract, the left arm should also be able to leave the Soul King and act alone. This has what questions do you have? Is this really true? It feels so disgusting. Akaku and Yumachika complained from the side. It looks like a monster with a single eye on its arm. It's the same as what Urahara Kazuki said on the phone. Should it be called a single eye? There should be objections. Kurotsuchi Mayuri began to study the arm. But at this time, Pineda began to attack. Countless nerves sprouted out of the arms, spreading downward like branches. Seeing this, Yumachika and Akaku quickly ran away. Kurotsuchi Mayuri didn't panic at all, and a small green ball that looked like a plant escaped from her sleeve. It looked like a plant, but with a loud noise, the ball burst open and turned into an umbrella. There are eyes and a nose on the surface of the umbrella, which looks very silly. Pineda's nerves were attached to the umbrella surface, and the small umbrella immediately tightened, and Pineda roared in pain again. Captain Nirvana, what invention do you have? Kyoraku Shunsui outside the video couldn't help but ask curiously. It's what you see with your eyes, an umbrella. A smile appeared at the corner of Kurotsuchi Mayuri's mouth. It's just that it can be contracted. The nerves absorbed by the umbrella will not make the Soul King's arm feel better. If it hadn't been opened, I would have thought that Captain Nirvana took out a flower bud, but after unfolding, the umbrella still had a face. I couldn't help laughing. Rangaku laughed. Now Captain Zaraki can't participate in the battle, and the others can't help. Does Captain Nirvana want to challenge the Soul King's arm alone? Tōshirō felt incredible. If it had been anyone else, he would have been stunned before the battle started. On the other hand, Kurotsuchi Mayuri is calm and has a great chance of winning. I can't help you, Captain Hitsugaya. Are you talking about me? Madarame Makaku glanced at Tōshirō and said angrily. Wherever it goes, even if I go, I can't help, Tōshirō quickly explained. Kyoraku Shunsui waved his hand. Captain Hitsugaya is not targeting Madara, but all of us. Tōshirō. Invisible Empire. Have you still transformed? Asenet frowned. It seemed that the initial form was completely unable to deal with Kurotsuchi Mayuri. There are too many tricks. I feel that if Kurotsuchi Mayuri had been present in the previous battle with Gerard, I am afraid Gerard would not have been resurrected so many times. Lijibero shook his head. Shout, there are indeed many methods, but they are only targeted. If it were anyone else, Kurotsuchi Mayuri might not be easy to deal with. Gerard was a little unhappy. Return to the video screen. Looking at Pineda in pain, Kurotsuchi Mayuri's eyes suddenly tightened. There was a question he couldn't figure out. Why did the Spirit King's left arm bend to serve as Yuhabach's subordinate? But forget it, that kind of doubt is nothing compared to the joy at this moment. Kurotsuchi Mayuri laughed again. Joy. Suddenly, Haidu's somewhat distorted voice came to King Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Seeing this, Kurotsuchi Mayuri became even more excited. Can we still communicate with words? This is beyond my expectation. What organ do you use to make sounds? This aroused my interest again. Captain Nirvana, stop talking endlessly and run away. In this situation, why are you still looking so excited? Madarame Makaku thinks Kurotsuchi Mayuri is crazy. Fighting with such an opponent, why don't you run away and wait? What? Why are you looking so excited? Why? Kurotsuchi Mayuri smiled crazily, because I found an observation object that I have never seen before. These completely exceeded his expectations. How could he not be overjoyed? Neuropathy. If Pineda could communicate without any barriers, he would definitely say these 3 words to Kurotsuchi Mayuri. However, all Pineda can do is fight back. The huge arms once again released numerous muscles and nerves. Seeing this, Kurotsuchi Mayuri became even more excited and completely lost control of her expression. Yes, that's it, a little more, show a little more, show me the Soul King's left arm. Left arm, name. No, Kita. Pineda emphasized that he is not called Lefty. But the sound could not be heard clearly. Kurotsuchi Mayuri put her hand to her ear and said, What are you talking about? Can you speak louder? Pineda. Pakaja. This time, Pineda tried his best to pronounce his name. The name is too long. Kurotsuchi Mayuri spread her hands and complained. Besides, I was the one who discovered the Soul King's left hand, so the naming rights should belong to me. What theory is this? Is he usually like this? 2 viewers, Yumika and Akaku, complained. Ha ha ha, Madarame and Ayasagawa's complaints are so accurate. Kyoraku Shunsui applauded and praised outside the video. Akaku grinned. That's not it, Captain Who doesn't regard himself as an outsider. Kurotsuchi Mayuri folded her arms with disdain on her face. Is this guy's name Pineda Pakaja? Tōshirō frowned. Captain Nirvana is right. Since he is the left arm of the Soul King, why should he be Yuhabach's subordinate? Tōshirō couldn't understand that the Spirit King was the highest of all, and his power was unprecedented. Even if it was just a left arm, it definitely contained endless power. Isn't it too spineless to live under someone else's roof? The power of Yuhabach is definitely greater than that of the Soul King's left arm, and if Yuhabach really wants to attack Soul Society, he will definitely find helpers. Even if Panita does not give in, according to Yuhabach's methods, he will definitely be defeated. Yield. Unohana Retsu's eyes lit up and he said calmly, "The Knights of the Star Cross 1,000 years ago did not have the arm of the Spirit King. Regardless of others, a Quincy with the power of the Soul King is definitely stronger than any member of the first-generation Star Cross Knights. Yuhabach is someone who can do such a thing." Tōshirō nodded in agreement. Return to the video screen. Kurotsuchi Mayuri continued. "But forget it, since it comes from my own will, then this time is a special case, I can agree, but the writing words must be decided by me." Panita waited with huge eyes, full of doubt. "You said. It means. I don't understand." He didn't understand what Kurotsuchi Mayuri meant at all. It wasn't just him. Even Ikaku and Yumachika were in a state of confusion. They complained. "Don't worry, we also listen." "Don't know. I understand," Ni Inmeng suddenly said. Yumikawa Ikaku. Panita blinked. "If you don't understand. Most of them are bad words." "You, the enemy. What the enemy says must be bad words about the Quincy." "No, not allowed." Panita became furious and her nerves spread rapidly. Kurotsuchi Mayuri was a little shocked that these nerves actually controlled the ground and formed a rock arm. "Oh, it's really shocking. Leon inorganic substances can be controlled by nerves. It's so unexpected, it's awesome." Kurotsuchi Mayuri licked her lips, her endless malice clearly revealed. The rock arm fell with a crash, and he jumped up to prepare for transfer. The arm was instantly launched like a missile, and the connected rope allowed him to grab the wall and swing in midair. But suddenly, the wall suddenly cracked open and took on the shape of an arm, throwing it towards Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Looking at the wall controlled by nerves, Kurotsuchi Mayuri snorted and had no choice but to let go of the hand holding the wall. Before he could get there, a sudden change occurred. The other rocky arm also slapped him, and the two slaps were like slapping mosquitoes, instantly suppressing Kurotsuchi Mayuri in the palm of his hand. "It's over, Captain Nirvana." Kashiwamura Sajin outside the video spread his hands with regret. Panita had too many things to control and did not give Kurotsuchi Mayuri time to react. "It is not a shame to lose to such an opponent. Even if you die, I won't die." Kurotsuchi Mayuri glared at Kashiwamura Sajin fiercely. "What does this say? He is a reformer, how could he be crushed to death by a stone?" Panita's ability to control inorganic matter is simply amazing, and the area covered by the nerves is not very wide. There was a flash of worry in Sui Feng's eyes. Even if Kurotsuchi Mayuri was okay, she would definitely not be able to cope with the upcoming battle. Invisible Empire. Ha ha ha, killing this guy is like swatting a mosquito to death. Kurotsuchi Mayuri really verified this statement. Mass-killing Bersi shook his head and said with disdain. "This guy is so arrogant when he wants to use Panita as a research object." Giselle smiled and said, "Don't think that defeating an Espada and then making it into a specimen will make you successful. We are Quincy. Now it's been crushed into meat patties." Return to the video screen. Boom. An explosion occurred directly in the palm of the hand. Captain Nirvana exploded? Madarame Mikaku frowned. Tianfun was worried. "Don't make a fuss." Kurotsuchi Mayuri's voice came out from the smoke. "It's just explosive reactive armor. I won't explain the details. You can look it up in the dictionary yourself." Bar. Zhao Li Zhao. At this time, his appearance also changed slightly. Yumachika was very anxious. "No, Captain Nirvana, if you go any further, that guy's nerves will be affected. The ground is full of nerves, covering the ground. As long as Kurotsuchi Mayuri lands, it will be 100% controlled. Don't worry about the consequences, it must be similar to Zaraki Kenpachi." Wow. Suddenly, a disc-like spiritual light group appeared at the soles of Kurotsuchi Mayuri's feet. "You are familiar with this, of course you are." Kurotsuchi Mayuri stared at the surprised Panita with a sinister smile. "Because this is the aerial footwork used by your Quincy, flying sickle kick. This is the name of Ishida Sojin and Ishida Uryu. The original Quincy may be called by other names. Always, even if your nerves cover the entire ground, as long as you don't step on them. It means nothing above this world. Did this guy invent the flying scythe shoes?" Ishida Uryu twitched the corner of his mouth. He could guess that these were made by Kurotsuchi Mayuri to imitate the Quincy's high-speed moving footwork. Flying shoes. Ha ha ha, what a funny name. Ichigo couldn't help laughing. He's not a Quincy. If he uses flying sickle legs that are stronger than Shunpo and Hibiki, doesn't it count as shoes? Ishida Uryu said while holding his glasses, and it can also achieve the purpose of flying. Shout, flying sickle shoes or flying sickle shoes and quilts, why are you belittling the Shunpo used by our Shinigami? Renji complained, and even Irankar's sound was also affected. Yulong shook his head. What I said is the truth. The video continues to play. Kurotsuchi Mayuri threw an inexplicable object towards Panita, and then it wrapped around Panita's little finger. Upon closer inspection, it turned out to be a small snake-like monster with a human face. This is of course his best meat bomb. Then just collect the samples as scheduled. Kurotsuchi Mayuri's smile turned cold and she pressed the toad-shaped controller in her hand. Bang! Panita's little finger was blown off instantly and fell to the ground. However, when Panita outside the video saw this, he started to tremble all over. Chapter 144. The demon fetus is imprinted on the body, frightening the three realms. Please subscribe. Panita has never seen such an opponent before. I felt unprecedented fear in my heart. What is this thing? It looks like a human, but it doesn't look like a snake. The most outrageous thing is that this thing can actually explode. Masuko's mouth twitched. There are no scientists in their star-crossed nights, so they can't explain what kind of device this is. Unlike Seirei and Arankar, there are two mad scientists, Kurotsuchi Mayuri and Zale Iporo. In terms of technology alone, their star-crossed nights are 10 years behind. Can't you see it? It's just a bomb. It's just a weird shape. Bambietta shook her head speechlessly. She specializes in explosions. This is the ability. Although she doesn't study it like scientists, she can still see what Kurotsuchi Mayuri did just now. Don't be afraid, Panita, just a Shinigami will never kill you. Lijabalo looked at Panita who was shaking all over and said comfortingly. However, the scene was indeed a bit cruel. A weird bomb was able to blow off Penny's big fingers. You know, he is the Soul King's left hand, so you can imagine how tough it is. As a result, Kurotsuchi Mayuri's meat bomb became even more powerful. GG, Panita nodded and murmured twice, this world. That's it, a meat bomb. The corner of Ishida Ulong's mouth twitched, and his face suddenly turned ugly. Inoue Orihime also looked abnormal. When the two first entered Seirei, it was Kurotsuchi Mayuri who used Shinigami as a meat bomb. This method was very cruel. However, the explosion of the bomb was prevented by Inoue Orihime's ability shield, otherwise the consequences would be disastrous. Kurotsuchi Mayuri is a madman. Kurosaki Ichigo clenched his fists. He couldn't understand the psychology of a scientist, but it was too hateful to not take his subordinates seriously. That's what I say, but Captain Nirvana's bomb is really powerful. Renji sighed. Return to the video screen. After the little finger was broken, Panita let out a very weird scream. However, Kurotsuchi Mayuri didn't pay attention to him at all. Instead, she paid attention to the broken finger and poured a formalin-like agent on the finger. This is a protective medicine. Does it hurt? Kurotsuchi Mayuri smiled sinisterly. After the battle is over, I will make you a storage tank, but before that, use this to keep it fresh. After splashing the potion, Panita screamed even more violently. At the same time, an eye opened on the broken little finger. Kurotsuchi Mayuri was immediately stunned. Nervous tissue flew out from above and wrapped around his arm at an extremely fast speed, leaving him no time to react. Invisible Empire. Ha ha ha. You must have been negligent. Panita's fingers can't be controlled only when he is in his true form. Lijabaro smiled scornfully. Even a broken finger can still trigger a nerve attack. Kurotsuchi Mayuri is finished now. Panita, you don't have to be afraid, you are already winning in the video. Gerard also comforted him. After all, we are both members of the guards, so we should care about our teammates. Panita nodded, and his body stopped shaking. Next, just enjoy the scene of Kurotsuchi Mayuri being turned into a meatball. Robert said, no, Kurotsuchi Mayuri is transformed into a consciousness, and it should explode directly. It's over, Captain Nirvana is controlled by nerves. Kira's heart suddenly tightened when she saw Zaraki Kenpachi's appearance before, and Kurotsuchi Mayuri was a modified person, so her situation was definitely different from Kenpachi's. Now all he could think about was the image of Kurotsuchi Mayuri exploding all over. Kira himself was stabbed in the chest and lost his arms when the Quincy invaded. He still hoped that Kurotsuchi Mayuri could save him and reform him, otherwise he wouldn't be so worried. There's nothing I can do. Captain Nirvana was still careless. I didn't expect that the broken finger could still attack. It's really abominable. Shuhei frowned. Zaraki Kenpachi is now paralyzed, and Kurotsuchi Mayuri is about to be defeated. Who else can serve as Panita's opponent? Himself? It's definitely impossible. At this time, he should be far away on the battlefield on the other side. Madarei Mikaku and Yumachika? There was no need to count on it. Seeing Panita transform, the two of them ran faster than rabbits. No, you just underestimate me so much. Kurotsuchi Mayuri's face turned pale, as black as charcoal. If he can be controlled by his mere nerves, wouldn't he be acting as the director of the Development Bureau and trying to reform people? Yeah, look at Captain Nirvana, he has a strategy to deal with it. Our worries are unnecessary. Kiraku Shunsui shook his head and smiled. Return to the video screen. Boom, a puff of white smoke came out instantly. But this was not an explosion, but an operation performed by Kurotsuchi Mayuri on herself. Only for a moment. The configuration of nerves, blood vessels, and muscles are all reorganized. Do you think you can control my body so easily, Peta? There was a freshly sutured wound on Kurotsuchi Mayuri's trembling arm, and a small amount of blood spilled on the needle thread. The eyes on the little finger grew extremely huge and did not blink. Panida's huge arm also stood motionless. He was completely shocked. Such a wonderful plan was simply beyond comprehension. Do you believe that in a few seconds, someone can completely modify their nerves, muscles, etc.? Invisible Empire, Palace of Ice. Dozens of eyes stared like bells, and no one could understand. F.A. What happened? Lightabaro spoke first. That guy seemed to have performed an operation on himself, and Panida's nerve control was no longer effective. Asano swallowed. Although he couldn't believe it, he had to accept this reality. What kind of scientist is this? You can just become a doctor. Masuko scratched his head, his face full of surprise. What can we do? The nerves have no effect on Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Isn't Panida's ability useless? Maskiller Bercy frowned and said worriedly. Panida murmured twice, seeming to say that he still had means. Seirei, Kurotsuchi Mayuri, you are really a monster. Zaraki Kenpachi raised the corners of his mouth slightly. Even he couldn't help being surprised when he saw this situation. In just a few seconds, he can perform this operation that is beyond common sense. I am afraid that the only person in the world who can do this is Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Beautiful, well done, Captain Nirvana. Kyoraku Shunsui said while applauding. Kingraku, when will we have Captain Nirvana's ability? We won't have to be afraid of any opponent. A smile appeared on Jashiro's sickly face. Forget it, I'm afraid I don't have Captain Nirvana's talent. Kyoraku Shunsui shook his head. Kurotsuchi Mayuri on the side remained calm, but inside she was enjoying listening to everyone praising herself. The screen continues to play. Kurotsuchi Mayuri said it quite easily, but mostly he was pretending to insist. Because the arms are shaking constantly. It's really bad. Is it because I haven't had one-hand surgery for a long time? It's really embarrassing. Kurotsuchi Mayuri complained. Boy, one-handed surgery. To himself, he seemed dissatisfied, but to everyone outside the video, he was showing off again. In a state of embarrassment, Panida's voice came from the huge arm. You look very anxious now. Hearing this, Kurotsuchi Mayuri quickly put away her anxious expression and raised her head with a cold smile. Oh, is that so? Panida ignored Kurotsuchi Mayuri's reaction and continued. Next, I will make you even more panicked. The broken little finger on the ground was instantly reconnected to the arm through nerves, and then the complete arm crawled on the ground like a multi-legged insect. In the blink of an eye, the pressure was on the top of Kurotsuchi Mayuri's head. Kurotsuchi Mayuri didn't panic at all and threw a meat bomb again. With a bang, the arm was blown apart again. However, the finger that was blown off actually turned into another left hand. Oh my, did the broken finger turn into another left hand? Kurotsuchi Mayuri felt regretful. It seems I can't take you back in pieces. Suddenly, the smile on Kurotsuchi Mayuri's face disappeared. That's right, in order to make Kurotsuchi Mayuri panic even more, Penyon actually broke his middle finger. Blood flowed down his palms and into his eyes. Ah, eyes, blood. It hurts so much, Panida screamed. No, this guy doesn't seem very smart. Kjilong outside the video chuckled. He actually took the initiative to break his own finger and then complained that it hurt. I'm afraid you're not a fool. Now I believe it. Captain Ni can definitely defeat this opponent, Shu Bing said firmly. Kurotsuchi Mayuri twitched the corner of her mouth. It's very embarrassing for me to say this, and things are not as simple as you think. Return to the video screen. Kurotsuchi Mayuri became excited when she saw Panida's appearance. I read a book when I was young, and it was recorded that the Soul King's right hand represents stillness, which is also the power possessed by Jashirow, while the left hand controls forward. However, the knowledge gained from books is literal knowledge after all, and my aim is to believe it only if it is confirmed by myself. I finally had the opportunity to experience it myself. It was really a ecstatic battle. The joy flashing in Kurotsuchi Mayuri's eyes made Panida very annoyed. At this time, Panida has split into two arms. Adding the original ones, there are now 3 arms. They lined up and stared at Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Kurotsuchi Mayuri holds the Keisaidagarba Jizo tightly and releases it directly. Bankai. Yumachika and Akaku on the side were a little anxious. No, it's the Golden Jizo. The Golden Killer Keisaidagarba will not only crush its opponents to death with its huge body, but it will also emit highly toxic gas that covers a radius of 100 meters. Captain Nirvana wants to poison this guy. Take Captain Zaraki out of here quickly. Saying that, Yumachika ran towards Zaraki Kenpachi. Poison? Kurotsuchi Mayuri showed her usual sinister smile. Would I be so overqualified? Okay, I will use the information I just obtained to slowly produce the golden jizzing to kill Keisaidagarba. Demon Embroidery Seal Syndrome. Suddenly, a giant baby with dark skin, a lantern hanging from the horns on its head, a word, Volt, on its belly, and a scar appeared behind Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Compared to the former golden-bodied Keisaidagarba, the body with Fuyin syndrome has normal limbs and has abandoned its insect-like body. More like the human body. What the hell is that? Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Zaraki Kenpachi outside the video frowned immediately when he saw the demon embroidery seal syndrome. Although he had no fear, he also felt a little uncomfortable with the giant baby in front of him. Bankai. Kurotsuchi Mayuri answered easily. Is it possible that Captain Nirvana's Bankai is not in its complete form? Is this demonic embroidery seal syndrome the final body? Rangaku swallowed and closed his eyes slightly, not daring to look directly at the screen. It's too scary, Captain Nirvana. You'd better not use this kind of Bankai in the future. Hinamori Momo put her hands on her chin, looking panicked. Yeah, if I'm not wrong, this is not the so-called complete Bankai, but one transformed by Captain Nirvana, right? Kyoraku Shunsui smiled and looked at Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Bingo, that's the right answer. Kurotsuchi Mayuri showed 2 rows of big gold teeth. The demonic embroidery seal syndrome is the product of my transformation of the golden Keisaitagarba. It can be regarded as the special form of the golden Keisaitagarba. Although the picture is of the future, he now has the results of the transformation of the demonic embryo seal's fixed body. This is just a state of Captain Nirvana's transformation of Bankai, right? Omeda said tremblingly. If Kurotsuchi Mayuri wanted to, she could transform into other forms. Bingo, you got it right again. Kurotsuchi Mayuri snapped her fingers and was very proud. Yumachika and Akaku sighed. We don't have to kill them with poison. We don't have to run away. Suya Palace. Isn't this even more disgusting than the previous Bankai? Apache grinned, feeling very uncomfortable after seeing this monster. Both people and Bankai are extremely bad. Lily Knight frowned and turned to look at Stark. Stark, what do you think? Idiots, you women must be the only ones who feel sick. I didn't react at all. Stark said calmly, but he swallowed a mouthful of queasy saliva in his heart. This is not gender-specific at all. Shout, just pretend, don't vomit here. Lilynette crossed her arms with disdain on her face. Invisible Empire. Finally I found something more disgusting than Ace God's cowardly second form. Bambietta grinned. What are you talking about? Ace stared at Bumby, is this trash worthy of being compared with my holy body? Masco scratched his head and said, there's no difference, they're both quite disgusting. Asenet's ferocious eyes turned from Bambi to Masco. If you can talk, just talk more. If this form of Bodhisattva hadn't used poison to kill Keisaitagarba, wouldn't it still be trying to swallow Panita? Bercy wondered. Although the body of the demonic embroidered seal syndrome is very large, it is still much smaller than Panita. I'm afraid it's not that simple. Robert couldn't help but worry. Return to the video screen. Kurotsuchi Mayuri gave a brief introduction to the origin of the demonic embroidery seal syndrome. His ability is, based on the information I delivered during the battle, he can generate new Keisaitagarba. Hearing this, Panita was stunned, her smart eyes full of doubts. Generate a new Keisaitagarba? Isn't this the final form? Don't you understand? Kurotsuchi Mayuri narrowed her eyes slightly. You will understand after a while. Suddenly, Keisaitagarba roared, and then a brand new giant baby emerged from its original body like a butterfly emerging from a cocoon. Soon, the brand new Keisaitagarba fell to the ground, and its roar continued. Its surface was covered with dense branches that looked like tree roots. This Keisaitagarba's nerves are located on the surface of the body, so whether it touches the air or the ground, it will be extremely painful. Kurotsuchi Mayuri explains. Let's just say that killing Keisaitagarba is the worst among all Bankai. The materialized Keisaitagarba has a tuft of hair on its forehead and butterfly wings on its back that look like an elf. It can release venom or extend its poisonous sting to paralyze the enemy. But the way Jisho Jizo has been transformed now makes him look shameless in his physical form. Captain Nirvana, how can you turn a cocoon into a butterfly by killing Keisaitagarba? Sajin Kashiwamura outside the video chuckled. But this butterfly is too ugly. To describe it as a butterfly is simply insulting to a butterfly. It's just that the way of birth is somewhat similar. Kurotsuchi Mayuri looked at Kashiwamura Sajin with disdain. You know what the hell, my demonic Fusen syndrome body can transform into any fighting form. As long as I send information to it, the corresponding form will. Keisaitagarba will be hatched if you kill him. Even your Black Robe Heavenly Punishment King, I can transform it for you. Chapter 145, Sleep Number 7, A Light in Kurotsuchi Mayuri's Heart. Please subscribe. It's not a lie. Although Kurotsuchi Mayuri cannot guarantee that the hatched Keisaitagarba Jizo will be as big as the King of Heavenly Punishment, he can definitely create a Kashido Keisaitagarba in a combat-like form based on his battle intelligence. Captain Nirvana, you are a bit boastful. Even though your demon fetus Fusen syndrome body is not as big as the King of Heavenly Punishment in appearance, how can you hatch a Keisaitagarba with a similar size? Kashiwamura Sajin said with a look of disbelief. Although the Keisaitagarba Bodhisattva in the video is as tall as a building, his left hand is indeed larger than that of the Spirit King, but it is still inferior to that of the Heavenly Punishment King. In his opinion, Kurotsuchi Mayuri just wants to show off and prove that his talents are not inferior to Urahara Kazuki. Captain Komamura, isn't your mind spinning? Kurotsuchi Mayuri smiled coldly, glanced at Kashiwamura Sajin with her yellow eyes, and continued. Do you also think that the only advantage of the Black Robe Tenshin King is his large size? Of course not. Kashiwamura Sajin hurriedly defended, the King of Heaven's punishment is not only strong in size, but also in terms of attack power and defense power. They're top-notch. That's it. I take the essence of my Keisaitagarba and discard the dross, and hatch out a Keisaitagarba that has both attack and defense. That's enough. Kurotsuchi Mayuri's words were clear and logical, but it seemed that Kashiwamura Sajin was not thinking clearly. Yeah, Captain Komamura's and Captain Nirvana's Bankai each have their own advantages. It's really inappropriate to compare them together. Kyoraku Shunsui observed that Kashiwamura Sajin's dog eyes almost rolled out and said quickly. Kingraku is right, both Captain's Bankai are very strong. Jashiro also agreed. Return to the video screen. At this time, Panita's arm was like Spider-Man, spraying out nerves and sticking to the skin of Keisaitagarba Jizo. Compared to falling on the ground, Jisha Jizo did not react at all after being hit by Panita's nerve, as if this was the norm. Kurotsuchi Mayuri did not panic at all, and the cold smile on her face did not fade away. Don't worry at all, the important thing is. The nerves on the surface of the body of Jizo can be divided into 70,000 layers. In short, even if you attack its nerves, it will only be as simple as tearing off a layer of skin and... At this time, the skin on Jizo's body began to fall off, and the pain prevented him from letting out a deafening roar. Seeing the painful expression of Keisaitagarba, Pennine was a little stunned. However, the next second, Keisaitagarba Jizo opened his huge mouth and swallowed Panita's arm clone. Suya Palace. Here, are you serious? This guy's move is also about swallowing people? Zale Aporo broke into a cold sweat. He was very familiar with this scene. After all, he had been swallowed by Keisaitagarba before. Ahahaha, I thought there was something special about this guy, but it turns out he can also swallow people. Yami looked at the way Jizo was chewing and grinned. Lily Knight shook her head. The guy who was already disgusting has now done something even more disgusting. Yami, isn't this thing just for swallowing? Didn't you see the skin on its body? It's all nerves, and there are 70,000 layers of them. Zamari swallowed. With such thick nerve tissue, he felt like it was killing Jizo's body. It's all neurocortex. Return to the video screen. What's wrong? Looking at the panicked Panita, Kurotsuchi Mayuri smiled again. Just try your best to resist. If you can attack the nerves 70,000 times before your whole body is swallowed, then go ahead and attack. Niameng saw this scene behind the battlefield, but showed an indescribable expression. Thinking back to when I was first born. Do you remember what you called me when I first woke up? I actually like that name very much. Are you finally awake? Good morning, number 7. Looking at the current Kurotsuchi Mayuri, Ni Yumi sighed. I don't know if Kurotsuchi Mayuri remembers it, but he knows how to giggle now. Ha 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 ha, ha ha ha. The sound of evil laughter spread throughout New World City. Seeing that it was almost done, he asked Bosha Jizo. Okay, Bosha Jizo, your stomach doesn't feel uncomfortable, right? After all, you swallowed it whole, and it will take some time to digest it. However, I thought of making good use of the information I finally got, and quickly gave birth to a toothless individual. If the left hand is bitten, it will continue to multiply in the stomach, and even a huge Keisaitagarba will be difficult to control. As soon as Kurotsuchi Mayuri's crow's mouth finished speaking, Jizo began to feel unwell. The not very smart eyes seemed to be telling Kurotsuchi Mayuri, it's your fault for talking too much. What happened? The smile on Kurotsuchi Mayuri's face suddenly disappeared, and she frowned tightly. Immediately afterwards, Keisaitagarba's body began to expand, and soon it exploded and died. Blood and flesh were sprayed around, very bloody. That's it. Masuko, who was outside the video, was immediately delighted. You love to eat, right? This time I'll make you pay the price. Kurotsuchi Mayuri still underestimates Panita. Doesn't he want to take him back as an experiment? Ace Knot shook his head, and the consequence would be to kill Keisaitagarba and be buried with him. Squeak. Panita, who was sitting in the corner, hesitated again, but this time he changed his fearful expression and seemed to be a little happy. Robert stroked his eyes and said, I can tell, he is enjoying fighting now. Seirei. Captain Nirvana, every time your Keisaitagarba swallows someone, there will be no good end. Kashiwamura Sajin smiled faintly. When fighting Zale Aporo, the golden Jizo was also controlled by the opponent, and Kurotsuchi Mayuri caused him to self-destruct in time. When fighting a Quincy, there is no need to self-destruct, just be blown up. Shout, what's the big deal? It's just that I was stretched out. Anyway, I can change it at any time, and it won't have any impact on me. Kurotsuchi Mayuri waved her hand, took it back and repaired it before it could be used again. However, the failure to kill Keisaitagarba made him more interested in this battle. Captain Nirvana has a lot more tricks up his sleeve, so don't worry about him, Agent also said. Ahem. Kurotsuchi Mayuri coughed slightly and glanced at Khan. Mind you, don't talk so full of words. The Keisaitagarba with 70,000 layers of neurocortex has been killed instantly, so he can't let himself continue to have nerve-modifying surgeries. It is true that he is interested in fighting, but his methods are not as effective as he imagined. Of course, there are many technological inventions that can deal with Panita, but he doesn't know if they can be used. Return to the video screen. At the same time as the Bodhisattva Keisaitagarba exploded, a spiritual light arrow shot over quickly. Kurotsuchi Mayuri frowned. leaned back, and watched as the spirit arrow passed over her eyes and hit a building in the distance, causing a violent explosion. Ha 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 ha. Suddenly, Panita let out a different and cold laugh. It feels like Kurotsuchi Mayuri is laughing. Is it similar? I learned it from you, Panita said again, holding a huge sacred bow and arrow of destruction in his huge arm. You seem to have forgotten that Panita is a Quincy. Can kill enemies with bows and arrows. Hearing this, Kurotsuchi Mayuri closed her eyes slightly. Oops, what did I forget? The Soul King's left arm actually called himself a Quincy. I really didn't expect that he could say such shameless words. You have no shame. Where do you have no shame? Panita's fingers twisted. What's wrong with calling yourself a Quincy? I was originally a Quincy. Panita's tone changed 360 degrees, and Kurotsuchi Mayuri was a little shocked. No, this guy's way of speaking has changed. The picture outside the video frowned. It was difficult for Panita to speak just now, but now he can not only have a normal conversation, but he can also call himself I. The voice and tone have undergone earth-shaking changes. Is it possible that the Spirit King is possessed? Or does it mean that the Spirit King's left arm retains the Spirit King's consciousness? Sui Feng also felt incredible. No, Kiraku Shunsui directly denied Sui Feng's conjecture. If the Soul King's consciousness remained in Panita, he would never do anything to harm Soul Society. That's true, but is the Soul King a Quincy? Tōshirō asked curiously. Kurotsuchi Mayuri nodded. It's a Quincy. He translated this information in ancient books. In that case, it's okay. Rangaku nodded, not knowing what happened to Penishin. Return to the video screen. Kurotsuchi Mayuri looked up at Panita. The expression on her face became a little subtle. You've been saying bad things about Quincy since the beginning. It's really annoying. Panita stared at Kurotsuchi Mayuri with eyes in the palm of her hand. What happened just now? Kurotsuchi Mayuri stood there and pondered. The way he spoke changed in an instant. Indeed, his vocabulary has been gradually increasing since the beginning of the battle. Is it because his memory as the Spirit King is recovering bit by bit? Or is it starting to evolve gradually in some way? Kurotsuchi Mayuri can't understand that as a scientist, he thinks about more problems than ordinary people. At this time, Panita straightened his palm, 5 sacred annihilations appeared on his fingertips, and fired countless spiritual light arrows. Kurotsuchi Mayuri couldn't think about it anymore and quickly avoided it. He realized that these were not just simple spirit arrows, each arrow was connected to nerves. Don't be careless at all. But who would have thought that the nerves on the arrow could actually extend, and the nerves that spread directly wrapped around Kurotsuchi Mayuri's right hand. He was also very decisive and directly detonated his arm. With a loud explosion, the holy destruction immediately fell to the ground. But something strange happened. The nerves all over the ground actually caught the arrow, dragged it around, changed the trajectory of the arrow itself, and aimed at Kurotsuchi Mayuri again. Glancing at the arrows behind him, he instantly understood the principle. But the divine destruction is so close that there is no way to avoid it. Invisible Empire. Kurotsuchi Mayuri, this idiot, still wants to compete with our Quincy. It's really unreasonable. Bambietta had a smile on his face. Holy destruction is the Quincy's most basic and most practical attack method. Please give me flowers, haha. That guy Kurotsuchi Mayuri didn't expect Panita to be able to use the attack of divine destruction at all, or maybe he ignored this. Masuko seemed a little excited, and Kurotsuchi Mayuri's helpless look was exactly what he wanted to see. Don't you have many methods? I want to see what other methods you can come up with to deal with Panita. Lijibero smiled faintly. There is no chance for you to come up with any methods. This blow is enough. Declare his death. Seirei, it's over. Captain Nirvana is about to be hit by holy destruction. Tōshirō wrinkles. He frowned and couldn't help but worry about Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Even if this blow cannot kill Kurotsuchi Mayuri, it can incapacitate him from fighting. Damn it, the arrow can actually be changed in direction by nerves. Even if you notice this, it's still a step too late. Kurotsuchi Mayuri's expression turned unpleasant. A lifetime of wisdom is about to be destroyed, Lord Yingli. Nianmu looked at Kurotsuchi Mayuri affectionately, with worry in her expression. If possible, she hopes she can block this blow for Kurotsuchi Mayuri. However, in the video, wow, the arrow shot out very quickly, and at the critical moment, a black figure suddenly appeared. Ni Yinmeng came over in an instant and caught the incoming arrow with one hand. The nerves on the arrow instantly wrapped around Ni Yimeng's arm. Ni Yimeng was also very decisive and cut off the right arm that was holding the arrow. At the critical moment, Kurotsuchi Mayuri stepped forward and hugged Nirvana. He just stood on the flying sickle shoes, grabbed Ni Yimeng's head and scolded. Are you crazy? Why did you rush here without my order? Asterisk 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 asterisk. If it falls on the ground, it will definitely turn into a ball of meat. I've judged that this battle requires a shield, and it's time for me to come out and fight. Nianue said while looking at Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Kurotsuchi Mayuri said with a solemn expression. I don't remember telling you that I can provide reinforcements based on my own judgment. After saying that, he threw Nirvana to the ground below that was not covered by nerves. Yes, Down never taught me. Niameng, who was leaning against the wall, had a firm gaze. You mean, you can learn things without permission that I didn't tell you? Kurotsuchi Mayuri felt betrayed. No, upon hearing this, Niameng quickly shook her head. Yinmeng, no. Keeksing. Kurotsuchi Mayuri's eyes became solemn. Since Kurosaki Ichigo and his team appeared, we have experienced high-intensity battles, so that I have given you too many things. I plan to train the next you, and the current you, in the same way. Do you know how much burden I have to bear for this? Yinmeng. Niameng lowered her head. No, I don't know. If you don't know, then don't act on your own arrogance. Kurotsuchi Mayuri roared. Seirei. Captain Nirvana. Nirvana saved you, right? Do you need to scold her so harshly? Sajin Kashiwamura felt very confused. If it weren't for Nirvana, Kurotsuchi Mayuri's life would probably be in danger right now. Instead of being grateful, he was scolded. Captain Komamura, when do I need others to take care of my affairs? Kurotsuchi Mayuri looked at Kashiwamura Sajin very unhappy. Even if I say it, it's not your turn, of course. Kurotsuchi Mayuri was not furious because of Niamu's unauthorized actions. He did not want to see Nianimu get hurt. She's fine now. Although her unauthorized actions saved her on the surface, her arm was also broken. Kurotsuchi Mayuri could still withstand the loss of a mere sacred thing, but he couldn't accept that Ni Yinmu was injured for him. You know, he treats Niameng as his daughter. This is also the reason why Kurotsuchi Mayuri never lets Nianimu participate in the battle. Captain Nirvana is worried about Nemu, can't you tell? Kiraku Shunsui said with a smile. Kurotsuchi Mayuri directly denied it and said very arrogantly, I didn't think so. The others almost laughed when they saw Kurotsuchi Mayuri saying this very uneasily. Return to the video screen. Kurotsuchi Mayuri was still scolding, you do not have the freedom to choose death through your own judgment. If you want to die, you can only die when I give you an order. His eyes became very fierce, and he looked at Niameng who was curled up on the ground a little aggrieved and shouted, if you understand, stand up for me. Saying the gentlest words in the sternest tone, this is the arrogant Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Yes, as you wish, Lord Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Niameng stood up and spoke respectfully without refuting. Although her right arm was still bleeding, she still handed the meat supplement to Kurotsuchi Mayuri and said very guiltily, I'm sorry, I'll leave it to you, Lord Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Kurotsuchi Mayuri looked at Nianimu in shock. I originally made it for you. Ni Yinmeng said lightly. She also acted without authorization in order to give Kurotsuchi Mayuri a meat supplement. Kurotsuchi Mayuri said nothing. After taking the reagent, she immediately injected it into the broken arm. The arm grew instantly. This is a scientific experience. Chapter 146, Nirvana is the white moonlight. Everyone is crying to death. Please subscribe. Looking at the regrown arm, Kurotsuchi Mayuri said with some surprise. Did you already notice that I forgot to bring the meat supplement to send out, Nemu? Yes. Nianmu nodded. Before this attack, Master Kurotsuchi Mayuri, you did not touch the medicine box that you never forgot before. Snort. Kurotsuchi Mayuri narrowed her eyes slightly and said arrogantly, you are observing very carefully. On the surface, he doesn't care, but on the inside he is very happy. Invisible Empire. Why is there still a scapegoat? Li Jembaluo shook his head. He did not expect that the weak-looking woman Ni Yinmeng could be so decisive. The operation of breaking an arm seems to be a normal thing. Mian number 7, it seems that this Nirvana dream is a creation of Kurotsuchi Mayuri, an artificial human? Gizel suddenly became interested, looked at everyone, licked his lips and said, you said that if I will become Nirvana Nemu turned into a zombie, what kind of reaction would Kurotsuchi Mayuri have? I don't know what Kurotsuchi Mayuri will do to you, but Jisho Jizo will definitely devour you. You are not like Zaya Laporo and Benita, who can cause harm to Jizo Jizo. Bambietta waved her hand. She could tell that Kurotsuchi Mayuri looked serious on the surface, but in her heart she was very worried about Nirvana. Kurotsuchi Mayuri will never sit idly by if she dares to harm Nirvana. Let's not talk about Nirvana for now. What the hell is a meat supplement? After being injected, it can actually grow new arms instantly? Masco changed the subject and became very interested in this, as he could actually regenerate his body. No matter how serious the injury is, it can still be treated with meat supplements. This thing isn't that magical, right? Since it can replenish the body and restore injuries, why is Yamamoto Minagi's arm always broken? Kuruji said. It stands to reason that Yamamoto Genryuzai does not want to use human power, but he can use meat supplements to recover from his injuries. It can be seen that Kurotsuchi Mayuri's meat supplement has no effect on Yamamoto Genryuzai's injury. Yamamoto Genryuzai's 4-7 is too strong, so there is no way to create the same body, right? A look of horror flashed in Hasward's eyes. Yamamoto Genryuzai's Bankai, he doesn't want to see you again. In other words, the meat supplement can only be used on modified people like Kurotsuchi Mayuri, and it has no effect on others. Asano analyzed. Yes, his subordinates, Ni Yinmeng should also be able to use it, but the others probably can't. Robert agreed. Gerald frowned. You are a technology expert. You are worthy of being the director of the Technology Development Bureau. I originally thought that the situation was settled, but now it seems that it is still far away. Seirei. Captain Nirvana, look at how careful Nemu is. You really have the heart to blame her. If I were Nemu, I would definitely feel aggrieved. Rangaku looked at Kurotsuchi Mayuri, and then at Nemu, the sun-eyed star. She knew that the reason for Ni Yinmu's unauthorized action was not to deliver the so-called meat supplement, but to block the blow for Kurotsuchi Mayuri. When can I not give out meat supplements? Besides, Kurotsuchi Mayuri can't use them during battle. Kurotsuchi Mayuri sneered, turned to look at Nemu and said, Nemu, are you feeling aggrieved? Niameng hurriedly shook her head, it's nothing, Lord Yuli. You see, Nemu said no, Vice Captain Matsumoto, why don't you worry about it? Kurotsuchi Mayuri stared at Rangaku, her voice became much heavier. Shout, who would say that in front of you? Rangaku complained. Return to the video screen. After repairing his arm, Kurotsuchi Mayuri struck again. The power of technology made him fly, and he rushed towards Panita with flying sickle shoes on his feet. Panita was well prepared, and the divine destruction was as dense as the wood-style cutting technique released by Ten Tails' arms. Seeing this, Kurotsuchi Mayuri transformed in midair, avoiding the arrow attacks while also preparing to launch an attack. When one arm doesn't work, Panita splits the other arms and acts together. Swish swish swish, countless spirit arrows of light poured down like a torrential rain. However, at this time, Ni Yinmeng's intercom suddenly rang. Yinmeng, can you hear me? Kurotsuchi Mayuri's voice came from inside, and she told Nirvana tactics. Now he took the initiative to let Ni Yinmeng participate in the battle. I will take the following actions now. I will spread ultra-high concentrations of anesthetic agents over a wide area. It is unclear how effective this will be on its body. However, through previous contact, the nerve strength of its bow and arrow has been tested. With this concentration, the power of divine destruction can be effectively dissolved. However, judging from the results, this concentration will also have some effects on myself, but there is nothing that can be done about it. Yinmeng, your mission is to inject nerve coagulant directly into the nerve arrow that has lost its power. Nerve coagulant? What the hell is this? Outside the video, Gerald frowned and became interested. I originally thought that the meat supplement was outrageous enough, but it only repaired my injuries. It turns out that guy still has some tricks up his sleeve. As the name suggests, is it a medicine that coagulates nerves? Rijibaro seemed to understand what Kurotsuchi Mayuri meant. He wants to use nerve coagulant to freeze paid telephone's actions. Panita's ability is to control nerve attacks. Once injected with nerve coagulant, his entire mobility may be restricted. That's the power given by His Majesty. How can a mere potion restrain Panita? Mask disagreed. Use your brain carefully, don't you know how to prescribe the right medicine? This is the medicine made by Kurotsuchi Mayuri to target the nerves. Of course it will have an effect. Asenik glanced at Masuko angrily. Urahara store. Oh my, Kurotsuchi Mayuri has a lot of tricks up her sleeve. Urahara Kazuki stroked his plaid hat, smiled and shook his head. Does he have more tricks than you? Yoruichi squinted at Kazuki. The two were childhood sweethearts. When Kazuki was still the director of the Technology Development Bureau, Yoruichi often slipped into the Development Bureau, and his scientific research achievements were much greater than those of Kurotsuchi Mayuri. What method are you talking about? Kazuki smiled evilly at Yoruichi. Bang! Yoruichi's fist has already been punched. Be serious. Return to the video screen. The nerve coagulant is not like an anesthetic that blocks the transmission of nerves and makes them weak, but as the name suggests, it can coagulate nerve conduction. Kurotsuchi Mayuri explained. As long as the drug reaches the organ connected to that nerve, it can be forced to stop instantly. In short, as long as you take this medicine, you can't close your eyes after opening them, you can't relax after your heart is tightened, and your mouth can only stay open forever. In other words, it's like being frozen by an ice cube. Kurotsuchi Mayuri-sama, your voice is too loud. Listening to the voice of Kurotsuchi Mayuri, who was getting more and more excited about his research results, Nianimu complained. Shut up. Kurotsuchi Mayuri still wanted to save face. Although he didn't know the composition of the Soul King's left hand, he was at least sure that blood was flowing in it. Through this medicine, the flow of its blood can be coagulated, thereby killing it. It turns out that this is the principle. Frozen blood has no physiological function. Even if it is the arm of the Spirit King, it is useless. Kira outside the video understood. I originally thought that this potion would only restrict Benita's movements, but in the end, its effect was enough to kill him directly. What a terrible potion. If this medicine were used on their Shinigami, they would probably die immediately. Gizmo, Gizmo. Kurotsuchi Mayuri smiled faintly. The video continues to play. At this time, the nerves on the ground have lost their effect under the influence of anesthetic. Even if you step on it, there won't be any problems. While its nerves haven't been separated from the bow and arrow that fell to the ground, immediately, inject the medicine. Kurotsuchi Mayuri's command fell. Niameng took action instantly. She raised her hand and the needle immediately penetrated into the arrow. The arm connected to the nerves was instantly petrified. While Benita was dazed, the effect of the medicine had already invaded the main body's thumb. You're finished, Soul King's left arm, Pennyvo. Kurotsuchi Mayuri smiled grimly. But suddenly, Panita's thumb broke and detached instantly. How can such a little trick threaten me, Nirvana? Panita was full of disdain. Although you couldn't see the change in his expression, you could hear it from his tone. You can avoid getting hurt by giving up your arms, why can't you? Hearing this tone, Kurotsuchi Mayuri was stunned and said in surprise. What's the matter with this way of speaking? It's just like Zaraki. Could it be that it started to evolve gradually in some way? That guy obtained all the information about the things connected to the nerves and gradually evolved. Kurotsuchi Mayuri finally understood, and he couldn't help feeling a little panicked. If his nerves evolved to the level of Zaraki Kenpachi, then according to Nirvana's reaction speed, he would not be able to respond in time. Yinmeng, get away quickly, Kurotsuchi Mayuri roared. He became nervous at this moment, however, when he looked at Niameng, his pupils shrank sharply. This is the ability of the devil's body with Fu Yin syndrome. At this time, the scene changed. Memories come flooding back. What, Captain Nirvana didn't call you by your name? Ajin asked curiously, looking at the young Nirvana. Yes, he has often called me Yinmeng recently, Niameng replied. Isn't this great? Isn't it Yinmeng your name? No, my name is Chihong. Seirei. Is Mian number 7 Nemu's name? Rangaku was a little surprised. The name sounded strange, like a number. Yinmeng still sounds good. However, at this time, Kyoraku Shunsui and Jashiro's eyes changed slightly. They know that this is Kurotsuchi Mayuri's sleeping plan. Other Shinigami know very little about these things. Except for the people in the Technology Development Bureau, the young Shinigami in other divisions don't know much about them. Kurotsuchi Mayuri also frowned slightly, which is difficult to detect without careful observation. Artificial souls have the concept of growth and evolution, which is his lifelong pursuit. In fact, there are several containers in the laboratory of the Development Bureau. They are all the first-generation legacies created by the Soul Sleep Project. Although they are said to be legacies, they are actually corpses. Numbers 1 to 3 were all unformed things, and they failed continuously at first. By number 4, they finally succeeded in developing the brain, which also successfully cured a certain technician's disease. Later on, number 5 had evolved to the fetal level. Kurotsuchi Mayuri used technology to transform Zanpakuto and took the position of captain of the 12th division. At that time, number 6 had grown to the age of 2, but later died because his cells could no longer divide. This is the so-called transformation of the lifespan of soul cells. So when she saw number 7 growing up beyond number 6's lifespan, Kurotsuchi Mayuri was as happy as a child. The screen continues to play. Why doesn't Mr. Yu Li no longer call me in number 7? Xiaoyameng asked Shang Ajin. Why are you asking me instead of asking Kurotsuchi Mayuri-sama? Akin couldn't answer. I feel like even if I asked him, he wouldn't answer me. Since you can think of such a result, you should also be able to think of the result that I can't answer if you ask me in time, right? Ajin sighed. How should I put it? I think it's because I'm embarrassed. Embarrassed? Xiaoyameng was very curious. I don't think Master Yuli has such emotions. You sometimes speak very harshly. Akon curled his lips. Captain once said that it is the dream of all Shinigami to be able to create new souls out of thin air and transform Shinigami. He wanted to, but daydreaming in a sober state was a bit silly, so he named this plan, Sleep Plan. This should be the captain's self-deprecation. What follows is my guess. Transforming Shinigami is not the dream of all Shinigami, but the dream of Captain Nirvana. You know, you eat, sleep, breathe, learn new things every day, and continue to grow. This process, Captain Nirvana has always been like a dream, and if this matter is Nirvana. Nemu sensed that Captain Nirvana would definitely feel embarrassed. I didn't notice it at all. Xiaoyameng was surprised. Looking at you growing up every day and becoming smarter and cute, he should also think that one day you will notice you. That's what I think, Ajin said. Xiaoyameng was stunned for a moment. If I had been in a state of ignorance, Master Yuli would still call me number 7 now, right? No, Ajin said decisively, because you are the captain's greatest masterpiece. Seirei. Oh my, you're showing off, Captain Nirvana. Kyoraku Shunsui smiled and waved his hand. She was originally very worried about Nirvana, but ended up being so arrogant that she didn't want to admit it. Now Khan's words let everyone know that the always cold Kurotsuchi Mayuri still has such an emotional side. Nemu is Captain Nirvana's highest masterpiece. No wonder Captain Nirvana is so angry. Tōshirō looked at Nemu. Akon is right. Transforming Shinigami is not the dream of all Shinigami, it is just your dream, Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Zaraki Kenpachi crossed his arms and shook his head speechlessly. He is not interested in any ghosts transforming souls. Being able to fight with real guns and live ammunition is the greatest pleasure in his life. Kurotsuchi Mayuri remained silent on the side, and Akiko revealed all the things he was most ashamed of. How will he meet anyone in the future? This world. It turns out that Kurotsuchi Mayuri still has this kind of emotion. I thought he was a cold-blooded animal. Ishida Uryu adjusted his glasses, a little surprised. 1.1. But this kind of emotion only exists among the experimental subjects of the Tareem project. Panita's function has almost caught up with Zaraki Kenpachi. Nirvana is in less danger this time. I wonder how Kurotsuchi Mayuri will react. Ichigo frowned. Back to the picture. On the battlefield, there was a hint of ferocity in Nianyameng's firm eyes. It is impossible to stagnate and have no evolution. Kurotsuchi Mayuri panicked. He musical note Yamamoto said, "Are you okay?" Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Hearing this, Kurotsuchi Mayuri immediately retorted and shouted, "No, your mission is to grow. I think I can show you that growth by protecting Yuri-sama. Good guy, Ni-Yin-Meng is my daughter, not yours, okay? There are no orders, only missions. My mission is to protect Lord Yuri. This is the power you gave me, Yuri-sama. You gave me the body as a Shinigami. That ability can be used until the remaining 0.8% of the tissue collapses." Nemu said, throwing Kurotsuchi Mayuri to a safe ground. "This power can still last for 400 seconds, Nianyameng replied. Kurotsuchi Mayuri's pupils were shaking, and she was very surprised. "Nemu, how can you have such a powerful power?" "Yes, Captain Nirvana, please be nice to Nemu," Sui Feng also said. "Over you. There is no order, it is a mission. I cry." Rangaku outside the video was moved to tears. "Captain Nirvana, if you dare to bully and scold Nemu again in the future, I will never let you go." She rushed towards Panida and instantly exploded her arm into minced meat. After landing, Kurotsuchi Mayuri didn't recover until Nemu was far away. She has become more eloquent. "I never thought that one day I would witness Nemu fighting with my own eyes. It's really humiliating. I didn't mean to say this, when did I give such an order?" At the same time, he protects Kurotsuchi Mayuri and flies to a safe location. Chapter 147, Cute Mian number 8, is that Nirvana? Please subscribe. The eyes of the other Shinigami were all looking at Nirvana. I didn't expect that a reserved person like Ni Yinmu could say such words. It seems that she has already regarded Kurotsuchi Mayuri as the most important person. In other words, she knew in her heart that sooner or later, she would die to protect Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Nemu is so nice. Even though she is so good looking, she still knows how to be grateful. Katetsu-san's watery eyes looked very emotional. "Vice Captain Katetsu, I just scolded Nemu. There is no need to react so loudly, right?" Kurotsuchi Mayuri frowned, as if she was a villain. He is the one who cares about and loves Ni-Yin-Meng the most in his heart. Yeah, no matter it's Captain Nemu versus Nemu, or Nemu versus Captain Nemu, they are going in both directions. If one party doesn't have this kind of emotion, it won't work. Kyoraku Shunsui smiled lightly. It's just that Kurotsuchi Mayuri didn't show this love due to face issues. Even without Akon telling her, Nianmu didn't know about Kurotsuchi Mayuri's special feelings for her. He just embodied this love in a father's way. Have you ever seen how many fathers say disgusting things to their children? Isn't it always reflected in a harsh way? Yes, if you talk about Captain Ni again, he will be really aggrieved. Agent stood up and upheld justice. But, Nemu's burst of power in order to protect Captain Nirvana was too powerful, wasn't it? The sad emotion on Kira's face disappeared, and instead she showed a look of great surprise. One blow shattered Panita's arm. Although it is a split clone, it is already very powerful to reach this level. It's just that Nemu doesn't usually show off. Besides, how could Captain Nirvana be willing to let Nemu fight for him? Kyoraku Shunsui laughed this time. Just like what Kurotsuchi Mayuri said in the video, Nemu's battle was his humiliation. Invisible Empire. It's so funny that you let your subordinates block the knife for you. Kurotsuchi Mayuri is really a failure. Bambieda shook his head. It seems that Kurotsuchi Mayuri's methods are almost used, which has not caused fatal damage to Panita. Obviously, there is a big gap between the two in terms of hard power. That man named Ni-Yin-Meng, I admire his courage very much. Masuko suddenly became serious and stood up like a hero. He raised his hips and chest, and stared at Nirvana in the video. I support you, superhero, but, sir, that's the enemy, but I still support you, sir. James cheered on the sidelines. Nirvana. Let go. You, Panita hesitated and didn't know what to say, and the others couldn't hear clearly. Kurotsuchi Mayuri and Nirvana, you have made me so embarrassed, I will not let you go. Rijibaro acted as Panita's translator. Gerald curled his lips and smiled. Having this determination is enough. Return to the video screen. Niameng stood up for her truth, raised her head and looked solemnly at the eyes in the palm of Panita's hand. Panita seemed to feel this anger, her fingers turned into claws, and she suddenly attacked Niameng. Niameng had used flesh supplements to replenish her arms before. She jumped up with her hands in the shape of claws, like a falcon, alert and fierce. Soul cutting. 6%. Cut off 6% of my soul, penetrated directly into the enemy's body, and start destroying it. Righteous Soul Heavy Wheel Gun. Niameng clasped his hands together and instantly launched a swift shockwave. Panita's palm and his pupils were directly shot through, and the blood seemed to be spilled and fell to the ground, full of blood smell. The next second, the Spirit King's left arm completely collapsed and turned into flesh. After Niameng used this blow, his body lost balance and fell vertically downwards. Lord Yuri. However, at this time, the eyes of the exploded flesh actually opened, and a large number of nerve attacks were shot out at the same time. Nerves immediately wrapped around Ni Yin Meng's body. And those pieces of flesh began to slowly grow fingers, turning into the Spirit King's arms again. Nemu. Kurotsuchi Mayuri couldn't help shouting outside the video. Although Nirvana's attack did destroy Panita's body, Panita's ability can be divided infinitely, so it is completely impossible to kill him. Instead, it cost Ni Yimeng his life. It's so difficult to deal with. It's impossible to kill him. Just like Gerald, the Giant of Light, this guy's vitality seems to be stronger than him. Tōshirō frowned. Gerald can only be resurrected after using the holy body. Otherwise, he would be slashed to death by Zaraki Kenpachi. Panita, on the other hand, can be reorganized infinitely, making it even more difficult to deal with. If you get caught up in nerves. Rangaku swallowed and slowly looked at Nirvana. It was basically a certain death. Zaraki Kenpachi only had his limbs entangled and almost turned into a pile of flesh, but Nirvana's whole body was entangled. Moreover, Nirvana does not have the ability to operate on herself like Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Even if she did, it would be unrealistic to perform surgery on her whole body. Idiot, Nemu. You can't kill him at all. Don't be so impulsive in the future, you hear me? Kurotsuchi Mayuri frowned and looked at Nemu. Okay, Master Yuli. Ni Yimeng nodded slowly. Ha ha ha, you idiot, you attacked Panita in this way. I'm really tired of living. Bercy laughed loudly because of the Emperor's killing. We can't say that what Ni Yimeng did was wrong, she just wanted to try it. If you want to blame her, just blame her for being ignorant. Okay, now that the most important person in Kurotsuchi Mayuri is dead, he should leave this world with Nirvana. Bambietta was very excited and said with an evil smile. If you kill Kurotsuchi Mayuri, you must watch. I'm quite interested in seeing his real face under the mask. Why? Little Bumpy, are you attracted to Kurotsuchi Mayuri? Giselle looked at Bambietta and said with a smile, others may not understand his hatred for Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Who would fall in love with him? I'm just curious, don't you want to know? Bambi waved his hand. Think. Giselle frowned, and her stiff smile became much calmer. Return to the video screen. Bang! As the nerves wrapped around the body, the Nirvana dream exploded instantly. It's not like Panita used the ability to reorganize and split, and her body exploded, declaring death. Watching Nironemu's exploded body fall down, Kurotsuchi Mayuri's whole figure was frozen in place like a stone statue, as if she had lost all 5 senses. Nemu. Nemu. His lips moved slowly, and his hoarse and weak voice made people think that this person was not Kurotsuchi Mayuri at all. The image and voice of Zale Aporo flashed through my mind. Kurotsuchi Mayuri bent down and lowered her head. Now. Are you feeling hopeless? Zale Aporo stood next to Kurotsuchi Mayuri and taunted very proudly. Are you really desperate? Huh? What did you say? Did I hear it wrong? I couldn't hear it clearly. Let me take a good look at your face, okay? It shouldn't be possible. You, who once talked to me as a scientist, shouldn't be despairing. The transformed life form is dead, so there's nothing to despair about. That's what you told me, right? Zale Aporo spread his hands and continued to taunt. For scientists, perfection means despair, meaninglessness, you hate perfection, and so on. If you die, it would be great, because you will die because of imperfection, that means. And manufacturing, there's room for something better to come out. I think if it were you would definitely say this, right? Kurotsuchi Mayuri remained silent. Zale Aporo became even more aggressive. Ah, I see, you are beginning to think that the defective flesh doll is perfect, right? You have fallen, Kurotsuchi Mayuri, Seirei. This Zale Aporo is really mean. Rangaku outside the video clenched his fists and wanted to beat him severely. Although this is an illusion conjured up by Kurotsuchi Mayuri, this is what Zale Aporo should have said. Adding salt to other people's wounds is something Zale Aporo can do. Captain Nirvana, don't listen to Zale Aporo, the battle is not over yet. Tōshirō looked at Kurotsuchi Mayuri. In the past, he would never have said this to Kurotsuchi Mayuri. But after learning about the bond between Nianuma and Kurotsuchi Mayuri, he couldn't help but comfort him. Moreover, Ni Yinmeng's death was so tragic that it would be difficult for everyone to accept it if they saw this scene with their own eyes. Of course I know, I don't need you to remind me. Kurotsuchi Mayuri is still as arrogant as ever. But now he doesn't talk as much as usual. At this moment, he was thinking about what he would do if he really faced the situation in the video. Accept the truth? No, that's not his Kurotsuchi Mayuri style. Don't accept reality? Reality will give him a slap in the face. So he is very confused now. Even when it was most annoying, that guy Zale Aporo came out to criticize me, saying that his theory was wrong. Doesn't this add fuel to the fire? Return to the video screen. You should be grateful to that left arm monster. She killed your flesh puppet to knock you out and wake you up from your self-satisfaction and arrogance. With nothing to do, I am helpless, and what I thought was perfect has been destroyed. If it were me, facing this situation, I would definitely laugh wildly. Zale Aporo laughed loudly, and his laughter was like ants, crawling all over Kurotsuchi Mayuri's body. After Kurotsuchi Mayuri calmed down for a while, his expression returned to normal. He slowly raised his head, keeping the usual sinister smile on his face. He stretched out his hand and scratched Zale Aporo's illusion to pieces. That's absolutely true. As you said, it's really funny that you, a pseudo-scientist, would point out my arrogance. Kurotsuchi Mayuri comes out from the spiritual world. At this time, Pineda opened the huge mouth in his palm, and there were even eyes on the tongue. However, his target was not Kurotsuchi Mayuri, but he rushed towards the place where Nirvana fell. Oh, are you here to devour Nemu who was shattered into pieces? Kurotsuchi Mayuri was very unhappy. Okay, go ahead and devour it, it's best not to leave even a piece of skin. But, you have to give me your brain back. As he said that, he snatched Ni Yinmeng's brain and protected it in his hand. Captain Nirvana wants Nemu's brain to recreate Nemu? Shubing outside the video frowned. The skin is not important, the brain is the key. Since he was able to create the Nirvana Dream number 7, Kurotsuchi Mayuri was able to create another flesh doll. However, Ni Yinmu has been with Kurotsuchi Mayuri for so many years, and she must have developed feelings bit by bit. Even if a Mian number 8 is recreated, it must have the will and appearance of Nirvana. Captain Nirvana, although you took back the brain, but Nemu's body, you just watched Pineda eat it? Rangaku found it difficult to accept Kurotsuchi Mayuri's inaction. In comparison, it is true that the brain is more important than the body, but if you don't let it go. I can't understand it. Even if you have a brain, you can't say that what you create is Nemu. Kira interrupted Shubing. Don't dwell on this matter, Hana Retsu said suddenly. She sensed something was wrong with Nemu's expression. Facing her own death, Kurotsuchi Mayuri took away her brain again. She no longer had to think about Kurotsuchi Mayuri's intentions. So Ni Yinmeng is very confused now, she will not be able to find herself. Seeing Hana Retsu speak, Kiraku Shunsui quickly echoed, just believe in Captain Nirvana. The video screen continues to play. Kurotsuchi Mayuri releases a golden bolt of lightning that strikes Pineda. Once you touch me, your body will be paralyzed, right? You'd better leave me alone and eat Yinmeng quickly. If you don't move faster, you'll be gone before you finish eating. Dead. Kurotsuchi Mayuri's expression suddenly turned ferocious. The next second, Pineda noticed something was wrong and her fingers began to swell. What is this? He panicked. Kurotsuchi Mayuri explained. I embedded it in Nemu's pituitary body, and realized that forced cell division acceleration organ, that breaks through the limits of cell division in the soul and transforms it. In order to break through the theoretical limits and continuously grow, the special organs that usually have violent skills are controlled directly through the basal ganglia of the brain and the parietal lobe of the brain. In order for you, who are ignorant, to understand, I will put it simply. Nirvana 560 Li glanced at Pineda. If it devours other organs like the brain, it will self-destruct due to excessive growth. Bang! A violent explosion sounded. Unable to withstand the overgrowth, Pineda's body exploded. Swish swish swish. Pineda's flesh and blood fell down like rain. Kurotsuchi Mayuri protected Nirvana's brain, but suddenly, his legs twisted and he fell to his knees. So that's it. The remains of the nerve are not dead yet. The foot was attacked by it. Now I'm in trouble, he fell to the ground and complained. Isn't this just like Zaraki Kenpachi, waiting to have his body destroyed? It turns out that Captain Nirvana has good intentions, and Nemu's body turns out to have this effect. Rangaku outside the video suddenly realized. If Pineda didn't devour the brain, it would overgrow and explode and die. No wonder Kurotsuchi Mayuri kept shouting to eat it quickly. Humph, you are just ignorant. Kurotsuchi Mayuri folded her arms with a proud look on her face. The forced cell division accelerating organ is another invention. Captain Nirvana is so talented that he defeated such an opponent alone. Shu Bing's eyes widened and he changed too. There is absolutely no way anyone else can kill Pineda. You know, Kurotsuchi Mayuri almost singled out Pineda. One person challenged a guardsman alone, and won in the end. He was simply MVP. However, Captain Nirvana was still negligent. His legs were hit by residual nerves. If not dealt with in time, the consequences would be disastrous. Omeda was a little worried, even if Captain Nirvana. There is no more energy left to deal with the injury in front of him. Akaku caressed Kurotsuchi Mayuri and rushed over, opening the protective bottle, which contained the previously zombified Rojiro and Tōshirō. After saying that, the two of them rushed to the battlefield. Hotari must have tried his best at this moment. It has now returned to normal. Then Kurotsuchi Mayuri and Zaraki Kenpachi lay in protective bottles. You go first with them. Even though her physical condition was worrying, Kurotsuchi Mayuri still showed 2 rows of gold teeth. Listen up, walk forward 30 rooms from here, under the rubble on the right-hand side, there's the body brought by Nemu. Protect the bottle, press the red button on the right to save the person in it and it will come out. Just when Kurotsuchi Mayuri was in despair, Yumachika and Akaku, who had been making soy sauce, appeared. HMPH, there are so many people thanking me today. It's really disgusting, but it's not important. Kurotsuchi Mayuri glanced at Niimu's brain in her arms, evolved, soul. The video continues. Then Captain Zaraki, let's go. Akaku and Yumachika suddenly knelt down and thanked. Captain Nirvana, thank you for everything you have done for Captain Zaraki. Thank you, Run. Tushilong thanked him. Finally completed self-evolution from scratch. I've surpassed you, you're a Harakazuki. Don't worry, as long as you take some time, the zombification will be lifted. Although your lifespan is greatly reduced, you probably won't complain to your savior for these small things. What, haven't you escaped yet, Squad 11? They are indeed a group of unimaginable idiots. Forget it, you didn't interfere in my battle midway, this is worthy of praise.